Yeah. So one of the things that usually I like to have guests in here. I've had Jim in here before, but because of COVID-19, we've been having to do everything remotely to the point that what we were actually planning on doing, because we started shooting AAL season 2 and we were on the ball to do
Yeah.
a music video, and we were about to do another movie, or at least go head first into the
Yeah.
pre-production of a movie. And this literally just put the brake, the brakes on everything that we were doing.
Yeah. You know what's a really thing that fucks me up?
What?
That it's May.
Yeah, yeah.
It's May.
I'm fully expecting. Let me tell you, I've been drinking quite a bit. I have been.
Nothing wrong with that.
I have been. Smirnoff Ice is amazing. That's all I'm gonna say. And I am fully expecting this stuff not to even remotely go back to normal until probably June. I've been saying that for a while.
I've accepted that summer's basically canceled.
Yeah, yeah.
In the big war scheme, I imagine summer is basically like, nah, we're gone. Like,
but yeah, it's. And I'm bummed because we just started AAL season 2, and I'm looking forward to where that's going. And we've got some crazy fucking episodes in this season.
And even that too is that like that first episode we shot, I think came out really good.
Well, yeah, it was good in a lot of ways. It was a good way to sort of get us back into the swing of things, because we kind of took a small break just to get everything done in post production. Someone's shooting fireworks outside.
Yo, hell yeah!
And but then all of a sudden everything just comes to a screeching halt, because that episode went very well. Even shooting it went very well, and we were all laughing and everything. And to me, that's the sign of a good shoot, is when everyone's just kind of laughing.
Even like we had an on the spot joke too that we did with the without going in detail, the punching bag joke.
The punching bag joke was the best part. But I'm really looking, again, shot in anamorphic for no reason whatsoever. But yeah, we've had to go everything remote, and I'm telling you, because it's been 5 weeks, I think. Now it's been 5 weeks. I kind of lost track, but
yeah,
of me just being in this stupid room working online, and because I do live shows, and it's driving me crazy. I've had enough of this.
Yeah,
but
I'm nowhere near as bad as you. But I'm in the same boat. I'm just like, I want out, but at the same time I need to be a responsible citizen and not go out.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, I have discovered as of recently that I am truly an extroverted individual, and I thought you were speaking for a second, and I was like, oh, I'm watching the YouTube feed. Never mind, that's like 40 seconds.
Yeah, that's me too. I'm going by the YouTube feed just to know where we're at right now, and I keep seeing myself. I'm like, wait, you're talking. I'm like,
wait a minute. Get rid of that shit. I know, rip summer.
That's my friend Steve. Shout out to Steve as well.
So yeah, that's sort of where we're at here at ANP. I just wanted to say that, but working online, it was okay for a little while, and now I'm just sick of it.
So working online too for me is because that's what I'm doing from home too. Is I am working online. I'm editing from home, but now I originally had 2 projects shot already, and now I've had to go in just once a week just to shoot all my footage. Because luckily where I work is not far away from me. It's only like a 20-minute drive.
Right.
And like obviously there's only 4 people in the office, so it's like we're fine.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to go back to the office that we're doing, because again, we shoot a lot of commercials for cameras and equipment and everything like that. We're starting to go back into the office 2 days a week, because we do 2 shows a week, and we're going to have somebody going in there to do the actual shows, to be in there for the actual shows, because I've been literally doing them in the living room upstairs. And editing them. We've been having to bring in people from all over Long Island, all over the country, and they're all streaming through that living room. So it's been absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that sounds.
And it has definitely been a trial, trial and error kind of deal. But if there's anything I can say about that, is that I like the fact that because of that, I've been streaming more. I've been playing Age of Empires 3 quite a bit.
Very.
I hardly play games, everyone, in case I'm not sure. I'm more of the movie guy.
Yeah.
And so I've been playing that. That's been fun. I've been doing everything online and
Were
everything
you
like
also
that.
playing World at War?
I was. That was
I saw.
that was earlier today. I said I'm gonna
There-
play this game, so I upgraded my PlayStation 3, popped it in, and we have started playing. Not Kino der Toten. That's the one from Black Ops, but the original map, the one that started it all from
Zombies, right?
yeah, and that's still my favorite map. I love zombies. I have so much fun playing zombies.
Yeah, I Call of Duty for me, the peak for it was Black Ops. I loved that game. I genuinely.
Oh yeah,
loved
that's
it.
right. I remember you telling me that you liked
Yeah.
Black Ops.
I really like everything about it. It's like I really wasn't a big Call of Duty guy, and like I don't know what it was. I think maybe it was just because I wanted to like get more friends at school, so I tried it. But like I really genuinely got invested. I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I had a great time playing it.
Well, yeah, it's a fun game. I mean, Black Ops. What I like the most about Black Ops is the campaign itself is interesting. I had never seen a video game that tried to do that before. And I don't think I like it anywhere near. I don't think I like it as much as you, Lucas.
Yeah, I keep in mind I have not played it since I initially played it, but I remember really liking it. I truthfully did.
I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, to
Yeah.
me, the peak of Call of Duty was Modern Warfare 2. I mean, that was like one of the first games that actually genuinely shocked me. The mall scene.
Yeah, that was
the
no Russian,
airport
right?
scene.
No, I had no Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great level, but it shocked me, and it was the first rated M game I ever got permission to play. And I'm glad that my parents weren't home when I played that level, because they would have made me stop.
You know, you actually just reminded me. You know what's really funny about that?
What?
Because I've really always had the okay play I'm ready games. I was never like, my parents were never like, oh, you can't play this, because like they always did like they did stuff like that, you know. So they knew I would, and they also knew who I was. I wasn't gonna like freak out about it or anything. But my mom actually surprised me with Modern Warfare 2, because she was like, it was a really nice gesture. She was like, oh, I heard it was the new one that came out. I managed to get a copy, and I played it. And then when I got to know Russian, I'm like, she cannot know.
She cannot know. Yeah, and I know it's possible to skip that level.
Yeah. It is.
But I didn't know that, and suddenly when I realized, oh, I have to mow these innocent people down, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
That caught me off guard. But that was the moment that I was truly invested in the game, though, because I was like, okay, this game's not holding any punches.
Yeah.
And yeah, I played that entire game over the course of one night because I was so invested in what was going on, and rarely had a game done that. I think the only other game at that point that did that was Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie.
That game fucking rocks.
It is a really good game. A genuinely great game, and not just because I had low expectations going into the game either. Because most movie tie-in games, of course, just suck.
Yeah. I didn't play a lot of licensed games growing up, honestly. I always stuck to like non-licensed, like actual like main party release games. I'm trying to think of like a game that like really I played from start. Oh wait, never mind. I just remembered. When Transformers: Fall of Cybertron came out, I shotgunned that game so hard because of how much excited I was for it. Like both, I did a shit ton of multiplayer, and like that was like one of the few multiplayer games I was genuinely really good at. And the campaign, I just like, it was like, oh my god, all of this, because I'm a big Transformers dork. That I will say. And I just like, there's so much in it, I'm like, more, please.
Well, of course, that's what we all want. But like one of the, I was really big into the Call of Duty games, like Call of Duty, the PlayStation 2 Call of Duty games. In my opinion, the good Call of Duty, the truly great Call of Duty games. The Call of Duty Finest Hour, Call of Duty 2, Big Red 1, which is amazing, and then Call of Duty 3. Now, Call of Duty 3 was my favorite of them because of how historically accurate it was. Not so much in terms of like the events that happens in the game, because it's a game, and of course you have to sort of heighten everything. But in terms of like the uniforms, the weapons, the amount of detail that they put in, the fact that you're actually fighting SS units, not the Wehrmacht. So the historian in me was just drooling over it. And playing it again recently, I appreciated it a lot more. And of course, that was also before like the real Not to get completely political, but the PC movement really started taking off, and so like there were actual like historically accurate swastikas in the game and everything like that. They were really detailed on what they put in the universe around you, and that was the last time they did that.
Yeah, I didn't actually play any of the PS2 ones just because, like, again, as I mentioned to you before, I never really played first-person shooter stuff growing up. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of them.
Medal of Honor was another one that I'd do. I was actually listening to the soundtrack this morning. Medal of Honor Finest Hour. That's what got composer Michael Giacchino famous, was he did the music to a lot of those games. Yeah. Some of the best soundtracks to games ever, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are fun games, and to me, the new ones sort of lack that immersion in the world around you that those games really had. Even Finest Hour, which had almost no characters at all, it just kind of switched from level to level to level. But the world was so interesting. Like, there's one level where you play the sniper named Natasha Pavlovna, and I remember that name, and you're a sniper, right? And so at the beginning of the level, that's great, because like you're just picking people off left and right. But then you have to go into the sewers, and you have to, like, there's armies of rats that, like, you have to swap, like, go around and everything like that, and you have to, like, train yourself to use a different weapon other than your rifle, and that stuff was really cool. Like, that just really immersed me.
Yeah, in general, I like stuff in games where, like, you are given something, but then it's, like, not taken away from you the whole time, but then you need to completely rethink. It is taken away from you. You need to rethink your strategy with stuff. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And Finest Hour was really good at that. But like Medal of Honor Rising Sun was a game that, like, my old friends from home, Ryan Marvin, Colby Couture, we would play. And in fact, that's what actually you're really gonna laugh, because I didn't have the money for a camera yet, and so I would buy these little tapes that like the tapes that music would play on.
Yeah, like cassette
tape.
A
cassette tape. Thank you. Cassette tape, and I would pop it in this little recorder that I had, and we would record ourselves, the audio of us playing Call of Duty, and like we're in the game. We would play characters, and I have almost all of them. I still have almost all of them. I found them by complete accident, and I just happened to play one back, and I was like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing.
That's awesome. Yeah, even if it's embarrassing, dude, that's awesome that you still have those, because I would literally sell my goddamn soul to get back my original, like, crappy show I made with my friend in our living room. I have it, so, like, I have it technically. It's on it. It was burned onto a DVD. The situation with it is that, like, it only played on the DVD player it was burned on. There's clearly data burnt into the disc.
Okay.
And I have for years tried to figure out how I can get this back, and I don't know what to do.
I had that problem too, and I specifically remember what I used to burn the DVDs on was such a finicky piece of shit.
Yeah, cause I did it straight from, like, it was literally straight from the camera to the DVD player, and the DVD player would burn it onto a DVD.
Oh man. See, I had a DV tape camera.
That was the camera I was using. It was a mini DV tape, I think.
Yeah, and so I used to just edit them, but a mixture of in camera, and with this little tiny, really cheap ass mixer that I had, and my parents were very gracious enough to buy for me. And we shot, my friend Ryan Marvin and I shot our first feature film. It was an hour long, and it was called Gyla the Invincible.
Was it a monster movie?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
And it was us, because it was only Ryan Marvin and I, and my friend Chuck a little bit. Chuck is he's like my best friend ever. Chuck, really, that was it. So we couldn't have that much of a cast. So I built, like, these little tiny tables and would put army guys around it, right? And I would shoot it very carefully where, like, our fingers would move them. And like, they were talking, and, like, we would be talking. Of course, we'd just be right behind the camera doing the audio.
Yeah.
And that was like an hour and a half long movie, and Gyla was, I made 3 puppets. Well, not puppets, stop motion animation puppets. That I used, and I built, like, a bunch of cardboard buildings. And, like, on Saturdays when I was supposed to be mowing the lawn, I would be shooting stop motion animation of Gylo the Invincible. And that's what I did. Because I watched a great documentary on the King Kong 33 special edition DVD that is still available. One of the greatest documentaries ever. But it really goes into how they made King Kong, including the stop motion. And it was like the how-tos of how to make a film.
Did they show like in that behind the scenes? Did they show like the armatures and like the mechanical? Oh, those are so fucking interesting.
Oh yeah. And Ray Harryhausen was still alive,
Yep.
so like he was just a plethora of info on like this is how he did it, and everything like that. And it's phenomenal. By the way, Ray Harryhausen did the audio commentary for the film King Kong on that one, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like every time I listen to it, I'm like, he's dead now.
Oh no.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever did you get into Ray Harryhausen at all?
100%, dude. Ray Harryhausen was great, man.
Yeah, freaking. I love. I mean, personally, I like my suitmation a little more than stop motion. It has more of a place in my heart. You know, the Kaiju Tokusatsu stuff, but stop motion is easily number 2 for me.
I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, Tokusatsu is a lot more on my higher for me, but I have always loved stop motion. Oddly enough, because, and it's kind of a good way to put this because this is what we're going to be talking about at some point in the show, is I grew to love stop motion because it scared me. It scared me when I was really young. I didn't understand it.
Same.
I didn't understand it, and I grew to appreciate it and love it as I got older.
No, totally the same. Specifically, it was the Rankin Bass movies that really introduced me. I think that was honestly the first bit of stop motion I'd ever really seen was the Rankin Bass one.
Did you watch on Nickelodeon Kablam at all?
No.
Kablam,
but I know of it. Yeah.
Kablam had Prometheus and Bob, which it was a sketch series where it was like basically it was a silent cartoon basically. Just like the characters wouldn't speak lines or anything; they would just like make their noises. And it's an alien comes to planet Earth to teach a caveman like futuristic things, and it always goes wrong. There's also a side character who's like a monkey who messes everything up too. And like they're really funny. I still find them hilarious. But like definitely if you watch that too, because like it opens like what you're about to see is top secret. There's a caveman and an alien, and it's like that alone would scare me as a child. Intro. I also want to comment. Steve mentioned in the chat that he saw the first Terminator for the first time and he thought the stop motion was cool. I love the stop motion in Terminator.
I think the stop motion actually holds up.
Oh, I think it's creepy as shit.
Because I think it's the staccato effect makes it so unnatural it works.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
Because like there's another here's what a lot of people have a problem with stop motion. And I know, Martin, you're in the chat and you know a lot about this. You actually probably know more than I do. But we've had conversations before on chat on live shows. But the thing with stop motion animation is stop motion animation often has a staccato effect, and that's because there's no motion blur. And it's crisp and clear, its entire movement, and a lot of people don't like that. Well, they created something called stop-go motion, and essentially what stop-go motion is it just adds the blur. It adds a bit of motion blur, and to me, I actually don't like that as much as I like the classic sort of stop motion.
Classic, like without the motion blur too. When I think about it.
Well, you know, it was funny because Jim Frasca, you know, I was just showing him clips from King Kong, the original King Kong, and he was like, you know, I can really admire that, but I don't like it because I hate how jerky and how crude everything is. And I was
is that for Rankin Bass you said, or is that still for Rankin Bass? Or
no, I was showing him King Kong. Sorry, I was showing Jim King Kong, and he's like, I don't like how jerky it is. And then I sort of showed him some of the later ones. He's like the Ray Harryhausen ones. So it's like, you see, that's better. But still, I have a hard time with that. And I'm like, King Kong is really crude.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was King Kong.
Absolutely. I mean, I will still argue that King Kong has influenced more filmmakers in the film industry in general more than any other movie ever made.
I think that movie has its place in history for a reason.
Yeah. It really is a masterpiece. It really is a good movie because, of course, I couldn't go to the theaters to see the TCM re-release of it because of the coronavirus. Actually, was why I didn't wind up doing anything with it. but I watched it here, and of course I have a 50-inch TV and surround sound, so I'm like, okay, I can get away with it.
Yeah.
It really is it's just such a good movie.
Yeah, totally. Like, I just, to me, it's like I've never understood, like, I understand, like, if you want everything to look as realistic as possible, but, like, at the same time, it's like, I think there's so much merit to seeing something like that and knowing how it was made.
My original senior project idea, when in Five Towns, was called Robot Pirate Island. And it was going to be pirates versus robots. And it was going to be these two guys that play D&D. They're playing D&D, somebody rolls a nat 20, but for some reason that nat 20 opens a portal to another dimension.
Oh.
And they get sucked in to a world where robots and pirates have to fight each other to the death over the booty. And the first thing we encounter are the pirates, but all of a sudden they scream. And I was going to have it completely Jason and the Argonauts, like, inspired with Talos. I don't know if you've seen Jason and the Argonauts.
That's with the skeletons, right?
Yes. That's my favorite Harryhausen movie.
I love the skeletons in that alone.
That scene took like 3 months to animate. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But we had I was gonna have like this really like old 1930s looking robot out of stop motion animation come around on the beach and everything like that, and the pirates have to fight the robots. But I just want stop motion. I wish stop motion. I understand why it's a dying art.
Oh yeah,
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. But
sometimes you get something. Sometimes you get something like that comes out, even if it's like not something you really want.
Isle of Dogs was really good.
Oh, I loved them. That movie was great.
That movie was so good. I watched that recently because I realized that Alexander Desplat did the score for it, and I like him as a composer. And
seeing that movie was fun because I got it. We went to this in my town. I went with two of my friends, and we went to like this theater that shows more like films like that, not like blockbuster stuff. And it was just a really quiet night. It was just us and like one other person in the theater. It was nice and quiet, nice small comfy theater. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always the local theaters, like where I was from in New Hampshire. The local theaters always got away with doing a lot of like classic movie nights. Like I got to see Gone with the Wind in theaters because of that place. I got to see, they always did Rocky Horror Picture Show every Halloween. But they would always have like classic movie night. I got to see Citizen Kane in theaters there. I got to see a lot of these classic movies, and one night they played King Kong. And I'm like, Dad, this is my favorite movie of all time. I'm going. Even if I have to hitchhike, I'm going. And he was like, fine. And so I went and I watched it. And I was so scared because, of course, I'm down in the front row. Big thing of popcorn. Biggest soda I can get. And these three, I bet you they were like 5 years old. These 3 5-year-old kids sit directly behind me. And I'm like, oh shit. They're gonna ruin it. It was the greatest experience I've ever had in the theater because specifically when Kong first shows up and the natives bang that gong and everything goes quiet and then the music starts building up as Kong approaches and you hear his roar for the first time. They were scared. The kids behind me were scared and I could hear them getting scared and I'm like, yeah, this is great. That was my reaction when I first saw that when I was 5 years old. And
kind of similar in the vein of that, dude. They re-released my favorite movie of all time is The Iron Giant. I've talked to you about this before, but I just want to mention that.
Fantastic fucking movie.
I saw they did a re-release of the Signature Edition, which added in 2 scenes that were originally cut from the film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was actually like really early college. It released, and it was at Fathom Events. They released it by the theater, by our college, and I went in with a good friend of mine who also loves that movie too. And I remember having the same reaction. I saw like a mother and like her 2 younger kids come in, and I like mentally I'm like, oh man.
Well, it brings you back. To a time.
Yeah, it does.
And one of the movies that I had that with for Ray Harryhausen, and I had that just at my home, and I was in a bad place too when I saw this movie. But I hadn't seen it. It was the only Ray Harryhausen movie I hadn't seen. It was The Valley of Guanji. And the present premise of that movie is literally cowboys versus dinosaurs.
Yeah, that one... Well, actually, No, I might be thinking of a different movie because like I don't think I've seen that one.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, and you can tell that everyone making it was just like, this is fun.
I do want to comment real quick on Martin mentioned in the chat that he loves Leica's stop motion films such as Coraline and Kubo. I 100% agree with him, except Box Trolls was not a fan of that one. Also, I thought Paranorman was okay.
And to address Martin, I have seen the 1984's Go Motion short film Prehistoric Beast. That was fun. I used to watch that all the time.
Yeah, Kubo specifically for Leica's is I loved that movie when it came out, and I still really like it.
I don't think I've seen any of those.
Yeah, they're good. Coraline and Kubo to me are the two big ones. They also Missing Link. Well, that was another one that was about Bigfoot. Came out recently.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, that one was cute, but more so I appreciated that one because I think that was like their best stop motion yet, and like that was coming off of Kubo, and like it looked really good.
I think that movie was a bomb, if I remember that correctly.
It was a bomb.
That's too bad.
It was. It's a shame. It was because it was a nice movie. Like it wasn't like there was like one or two like haha gross out jokes, but like not enough to the point where it soured the movie at all or like ruined the experience.
Justin, you missed. We're talking about just stop motion for a little bit. But the movie was going back. The movie was Valley of Guanji, and again, I was in a really bad place when watching it. I was just really miserable. And that movie was on TV, and I had the biggest just naturally. And to me, this is the greatest feeling you could ever have: is when, without consciously thinking of it, and without even really knowing it, a smile forms on your face.
Yeah.
That was me the entire movie. I felt like an 8-year-old kid watching that movie, and one of the greatest just at-home experiences I've ever had watching for a movie. And just because of that, even though I watched that later in life, that movie will always hold a special place in my heart. And it just sort of put me in a better place because of that. But to me, all of those movies, all those Ray Harryhausen movies and King Kong and everything like that, those are pure escapism. To me, those are the definition of movies.
Yeah.
They're there to make you escape, and it's almost as pure cinema as you can possibly get, despite a lot of those stories being based on Greek mythology and stuff like that, like Clash of the Titans, the original one. Fantastic movie. I love that movie so much. Medusa's scene in the original Clash of the Titans is genuinely creepy, and much better than the one from the remake, which I saw the remake in theaters.
As did I, actually. Mm-hmm. I was going to mention that because I'm like, I remember seeing that in theaters, because only just now I remembered that movie had a remake. It had a sequel too, didn't it?
Wrath of the Titans. Apparently, I saw the last half of that movie just because it was on TV one day, and I thought it was better than the first one.
Clash of the Titans I didn't hate, but understand I saw that in a mentality where I wasn't really super film conscious yet. So like,
sure.
it was kind of like the I'll eat up anything.
Mentality.
Like, I wasn't there just yet.
Yeah. So but going back to the Rankin Bass thing, the thing that used to freak me out in that movie, or in Rankin Bass stuff, that generally freaked me out, and it was stop motion, was the abominable snowman.
Oh my god, yes.
my mother used to tell me I would hide behind the couch.
I didn't watch Rudolph for that reason.
Oh really? Yeah.
I was too scared. The snowman's fucking scared me, and I didn't want to watch it. Now I love Rudolph.
Oh, me too. Cute. I absolutely love it so much. I did an entire podcast devoted to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
It's such a cute movie.
And then Winter Warlock from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. When we first see Winter Warlock, it's just a flash of lightning, and you see this like crazy face for like a split second. Scared the shit out of me.
I don't think I watched that one that much.
That's like my jam.
Oh,
that's The Year Without a Santa Claus.
That was the other one I watched.
That was a good one. But there was another one too that a lot of people don't know about, called Peter Cottontail. And Peter Cottontail had Vincent Price as the villain, and that introduced me to Vincent Price.
Really?
And you can just tell that man is having the time of his life voicing that character. Vincent Price was cool like that. He really loved doing what he did.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing totally ate up, playing in these weird horror movies from Britain, and he loved it.
Yeah. Who was a personal favorite, like, in that vein of just, like, they had just such clear, as far as I know, maybe they didn't, but, the live-action Street Fighter movie, that movie sucks. But the guy who plays M. Bison is the best part of that fucking movie. He's the fucking best.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, speaking of stop-motion animation, let's talk about that weird stop-motion animation scene from King Kong vs. Godzilla. You know what the one I'm talking about.
There was a stop-motion scene in King Kong?
Yes, there is. It's when Godzilla does the drop kick.
Hell yeah.
It totally didn't fit at all.
I totally forgot.
But it's there.
You're right.
There's stop motion in the original Godzilla too. One is Godzilla's tail wagging and before it hits a building, and then another one where I think a fire truck's flipping over. That was stop motion animation too.
I think it worked better in Gojira than it did.
Well, Godzilla they could hide it
a
lot better because it's in fucking black and white.
Yeah, because I'm remembering it now from King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Well, I just remember it's so startling how weird it looks. Yeah. Jesus. Sorry, I keep trying to fix your screen. It likes to change size, and I don't understand why, but I'll figure it out sometime.
I'm using my technomancer powers to mess with
that's it.
Oh, also, Justin just mentioned the giant octopus from King Kong vs. Godzilla too.
Yes! Oh my god, I totally forgot about that.
That too.
Yeah.
That scene, that was like one of those scenes, like, you ever have a scene in a movie that, like, it can be the most nonsense scene, but, like, you will always remember that scene.
The octopus scene, absolutely.
I remember
that one.
And from Jurassic Park, the scene where the one guy is meeting up with Dennis Nedry in, like, the marketplace.
Dotson, we've got this. See, nobody cares.
We got Dotson here! Like, that scene.
Yeah, you see, nobody cares.
For some reason, like, introduction of that scene of him walking up to Nedry, I don't know why, it's always stuck with me. I don't know.
Well, I remember the opening scaring me.
Oh, fuck
The opening scared me so bad I refused to watch it forever.
Fuck yeah.
I watched The Lost World, Jurassic Park, over the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I actually, like, honestly, and even now, I'm not a big fan of The Lost World. I like it. Yeah, I don't think it's terrible, but, like, I love that first movie.
Well, the first one's a masterpiece, hands down. Have you read the book?
I have not read the book.
Listen to the audiobook. Get it on audiobook, because I understand reading can take forever and it's boring.
I know some of the things that I know Hammond dies at the end. Oh, spoiler at the end. And Hammond's also like a dickhead in the book. Like, he's like really
dickhead.
Like, yeah.
He's not Richard Attenborough. Let's just put it as that.
I was gonna try and read the book because I shouldn't say I did one. I did multiple papers on Jurassic Park in college.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Sometimes they were recycled.
Oh.
No, but the one that I really first did, it was about comparing like differences between book release and movie releases.
With Brittain?
Yeah, I think it was actually.
Yeah, I had him too, and I did that.
But like,
I did another Michael Crichton thing. I did the Andromeda Strain.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's funny.
I was going to read the book, like I got it from the library, but then literally I did not realize how long it was.
Oh.
And I had like a week or so, and I'm like,
well, that's why I listened to the audiobook, was because all right, I've got a week to write this. I am a slow ass reader, and so I said I'm going to get the audiobook. Got the audiobook and went through it, and I was just lucky that was one of the cases where the writer of the movie and Michael Crichton worked very closely together on it, and so they're very similar. There's only minor changes in the movie compared to the book.
The Andromeda Strain?
Yeah, the Andromeda Strain. Which, the Andromeda Strain was also what started my major fascination of split-focus diopter shots, because it's like every other shot in that movie is a split-focus diopter shot. But I actually posted that in a kaiju group that I'm a part of, saying that this is microscopic kaijus.
Even though I think that's literally the exact opposite of the definition.
Well, no. Kaiju means strange, mysterious beast. That's all it means.
Bad.
It's sort of, and of course I made that post sort of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, and which of course people unfortunately took like I was being completely serious about it.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you post in like.
And well, it's what happens when like 12-year-olds run it. And but kaiju has sort of taken over the meaning of like a giant monster sort of rampaging through. And I personally disagree with a lot of people that'll say like kaiju it has to be a purely Japanese giant monster flick. I would say Gorgo's a kaiju film. I'd say Reptilicus is a kaiju film.
No,
I'd say
well,
Yongari, the Korean film, that's a kaiju.
Adam, I'm going to propose this to you.
Uh-oh.
So, you know Hanna-Barbera cartoons?
Oh, yeah.
Is Grape Ape a kaiju?
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Sure.
to me, if people are considering Kong a kaiju, Grape Ape is 100% a kaiju
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And as much as I don't like to say this, I consider King Kong a kaiju. So
I consider him a kaiju.
yeah, especially if he's going to be in the Monsterverse, if that movie ever gets released.
Bro, what the fuck is gonna happen with that movie?
That movie has been delayed more times than any other movie.
You know what it's competing against now? It's competing against like Black Widow, the new Bond movie.
It's like they just want it to completely fail.
Holy fucking shit! What is going to happen? We don't have a trailer yet either.
No. And you know what? I at this point I'm just thinking, fucking release it online. Fucking do what they did for the Invisible Man. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, Invisible Man did get a theatrical release.
It did for a little while. They pulled it because of everything that was happening, and they released it exclusively on Amazon. You'd pay $20 and you'd be able to rent it for like 5 days.
Bro, I'm getting really scared about that because like the whole paying for $20 for a new release, it's good if you have a group of.
Yes.
I don't know. To me, if you have a group of people, that's fucking fantastic. If it's just like me sitting on my couch back there, just like in underwear, like
I wouldn't do it. I'd pirate it. I'd full on fucking pirate it at that point.
Yeah.
But no. If I had a group of friends and we sat down and watched The Invisible Man, fuck yeah, I'd pay $20. To me, that's one hell of a deal.
Even then, like everyone could chip in to the point where it's only like everyone's paying like $2 to watch.
I know. Yeah.
Like, it's movies are being weird. Are going to be really weird now.
Well, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I hate theaters. I really do.
I understand what you're saying, but like I also really like the experience of going to a movie theater.
That's where I get my catch-22 side of me. Because like when I saw Interstellar in theaters, wow.
I'm so thankful I didn't miss out on that.
That was I saw it in an IMAX too.
Adam, I can tell you this now. I finally fucking watched Annihilation.
Oh, do tell.
I loved it. I thought that movie was.
Oh, I saw that in theaters with Dan Pabonio.
I was so bummed I missed out on it.
Oh
so
my
bummed.
god.
That's a good movie.
That
was
the
a great
bear.
watch. Yeah. Oh no.
And looking back at it, I look at that scene, right, and I'm like, oh, that's total. I look at it. The CGI in that sequence isn't really that good when you really look at it. But that was a case where I cared about the characters and the situation so much I would look past it.
Yeah.
Because that film had a pretty small budget, believe it or not. That movie.
That's the reason why too. I wouldn't get too mad about the CG. It's like, it also just like it bombed at the box office, which is a shame because it's like a really kind of original story.
Really good. Well, it's based on a book, and that book was heavily inspired by an Andrei Tarkovsky movie called Stalker.
Yeah.
Which Stalker has a very similar premise. It's about these people that want to go into this area called the Zone, and the Zone has these weird powers.
Yeah.
And it's very similar. Personally, I like Annihilation more because I think Andrei Tarkovsky movies are incredibly, incredibly boring. I don't agree with his philosophy on films. I remember getting a conversation about that in school one time.
I'm just glad because I remember a long time ago I talked to you about it, and like and it was also a running joke with a friend of mine. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch Annihilation. I never ended up watching it. But I finally watched it. I really liked it because I liked the director. He made Ex Machina, which I really like that movie too. I think I still like Ex Machina more.
Haven't seen it. Haven't seen that.
I think it's really cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I figured you would appreciate that.
Maybe Daikaiju means giant monster. That might be true. But we don't really use the term Daikaiju. We say kaiju more than anything else. But, I bet you're right, Martin.
Yeah.
But, less people in theaters and watching from home like the 1960s repeating themselves again. We're kind of in that area, actually. It's very similar. The only thing is that it's very clear that the movie industry, unlike what was happening in the 50s, not the 60s, Justin, it was in the 50s. We saw it happening in the 70s in Japan. It happened in the 50s over here in the United States. Back then, it was very the movie theater, the movie industry, and the television industry hated each other. They just did not see themselves as viable partners. Now we're seeing the movie industry jump all over these streaming services to the point that they're creating their own. So that's the difference.
Yeah, when you're because to me, and I'm sure you saw the story, because apparently the Trolls World Tour was like a huge hit for like buying a movie through this new method.
Of course, kids.
And like, because of that,
There's no school. Kids, of course, kids are going to want to watch it, and mom wants to shut them up.
Because of that, AMC has banned Universal films from their theaters.
Oh.
That is the weirdest flex for me for them to announce during this.
That's odd. I did not hear that.
Now, like right now, I'm like, okay, no one can go to your fucking theaters.
Well, every movie theater is still closed now, I think. And the one up the road from me is still closed.
No, they're all still closed. I just think it's so weird for them to announce it right now.
So then, are they going to play? Will they play Godzilla?
They might be strictly like Disney. They might be strictly. I don't know. It's like apparently.
See, I'm surprised they haven't done that already, because I've already said this multiple times. I think good movies go straight to streaming services anyway. So the movies that I've liked as of recently, with very few exceptions, have all been just straight to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon in particular. Amazon, I found several that have been like, oh, that was really good.
Yeah, I for the most part agree with you, just because it gives those like movies a better chance to fly.
Well, they have niche film.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
You got a niche thing, they fill it. And I think that's one reason why I'm unlike a lot of people in this industry that we're in. I'm specifically all for it. I don't know. It's definitely interesting, and quite frankly, the coronavirus really has skewed a lot of expectations and skewed a lot of data, where we thought it was going to go one way, including me, what I was predicting. The coronavirus has completely shattered that. So everything is up in the air right now.
I think it's interesting too on like when once life returns to a new normal or whatever. How is the movie industry going to shape up with like new stories? Like how will this affect it in any way?
All the old directors are dying from the virus. So what's going to happen? The only one that I want to stay alive is Martin Scorsese. Keep that man alive. Keep him and Betty White alive, please. Because I wanted to say that The Irishman was wonderful. That was.
I haven't seen The Irishman, and like I kind of feel bad because it like I don't know if I ever will, just because I know how long it is, and I'm like.
Thank you for clarifying, Martin. I just know that Universal is involved somehow because of Kong, which I don't know if you're at all remotely knowledgeable about Kong 76, Lucas, but that fucking legal battle.
Is that the remake one?
The Kong 76, the first remake,
Yeah,
which I think is an okay movie, by the way. I do not hate that movie at all.
I've seen clips from it. I haven't watched it though.
It's all right. It's a good movie on its own, but it's not a very good Kong movie. It's also really long. Like like I know Peter Jackson's movie is long and everything like that, but to me, Kong 76 felt long.
Yeah. Because
at least I could see. Well, I'm biased because Kong 05 is tied with the original for my favorite fucking movie of all time, but
yeah, I'm planning on giving Kong 05 a good rewatch because it's been a long time since
I bought the 4K Blu-ray with that came with all of the production diary videos in it, both versions of the movie, and then the like 3-hour documentary on the making of the movie on it. So they sort of gave King Kong 05 the same treatment that they did the extended cuts to Lord of the Rings, where they add like these ridiculously long documentaries called the appendices. Yeah. That is about the making of the movie in every little detail. One of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen, by the way. King Kong, because it goes into the nitty-gritty of everything that went right, everything that went wrong, all the chaos on set, all of the control, how quickly they were bouncing back on set. It's really good, and they don't throw any punches. When they said something wrong happens, they go into detail. This is what went wrong, and this is why it went wrong, and this is what we did to try to remedy that. You don't see that in a lot of special features anymore.
Those to me are the best behind the scenes, where it's literally like, it's not just like guy sitting. It's like, yeah, so we had this day. This is what we did during that day. It was
absolutely.
The ones where it's like, yeah, like 5 lights blew up, and like we didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And to me, that's where I learned, from watching these. And that's one of the things that I loved about the King Kong 33 documentary, is that they went up, like, how they had to create a lot of the shit on the spot to the point that they were actually able to patent it. Willis O'Brien actually patented the art of how he made King Kong, which a part of me thinks he shouldn't have, because if he didn't, I think he would have landed more jobs. But Willis O'Brien is a case of a man who came too early. He was too ahead of his time. Because he was working all by himself, all alone. Well, not all by himself, but he was the only one capable of doing what he was doing in the 1930s. And because of that, it was extremely expensive, and it took forever.
Yeah.
But by the time Kong was re-released in the 1950s, which, by the way, the 1950s re-release of King Kong was more successful than the original release of King Kong, and it's what really sparked a huge revival of not only Ray Harryhausen, but all of these other people, because they had gone to see King Kong 33 in theaters at a very young age, and by the 1950s, they had come of age. And so now they call them Kong babies. They literally call themselves Kong babies. And they, because of their love of that movie, they have now entered the industry. And that's why we saw an explosion of those kind of movies being made at around that time period. Not just in the United States or Europe and everything like that, but of course Japan. Eiji Tsuburaya over in Japan. The only reason why he was able to do what he was able to do was because he saw King Kong, studied it, and now by the 1950s he was ready to go.
You mentioned Tsuburaya, because I actually had been, I picked it up, like, I got it right before, like, really the COVID lockdown really started. Because they've been releasing these really nice, like, Ultraman Blu-ray sets.
I know.
Here's the thing, though. I didn't get Ultraman. I got Ultra Q.
I love Ultra Q. That's my favorite one.
Dude, when I found out, I didn't really know what Ultra Q was. I honestly didn't. When
this
I
is
found
water,
out, like,
by the way. This is water. This isn't vodka or anything. This is water.
When I found out what Ultra Q was, I just slowly became obsessed and fascinated. I'm like, I want to watch
Ultra
this.
Q was his prototype show.
Yeah.
It paved the way to Ultraman.
It's fun to tell to watch. Like, I really liked the one. It was the one with the slugs.
Yeah.
I really liked that one a lot.
Yeah.
Because like it went a place I didn't expect it to go, and I'm like with like, oh, it was actually a warning against us from communicating with the rest of the universe due to our natures of discrimination. I'm like, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah. To me, Ultra Q was the smartest one out of all the shows.
I haven't watched all of them yet. I haven't seen all the episodes yet.
Ultraman. Have you seen the one with Goro, the giant ape, yet?
Yeah, that's like the second or third.
Yeah, because that's I watched them out of order, by the way. I just happened to watch them as they were coming on.
You can, because they don't.
And that was the one that I really liked because it showed it to me. That was the film. I mean, let's be real here. That is a terrible monkey suit.
Oh no.
Let's be terrible. Let's be honest. But that was one of the things that really I did a big thing about it on Facebook. I said that's what really made me love Soup Nation. That particular episode to me was proof of why I think Soup Nation is a better form of art, special effects wise, than stop motion animation. And the reason why is because there's an actual human performance inside that suit, and it comes out in the performance of the suit. And stop motion animation, you can do that, don't get me wrong, but it always feels a little more artificial because you're having to do it a frame at a time. There's not an actual actor at performing inside the suit. One of the reasons why I think War of the Gargantua is some of the best special effects of its time, and it looks so good because those were genuine actors in there, and you could see their eyes, and that just lended so much more to what was going on.
Yeah, definitely. Like, in general, War of the Gargantua was just books in general.
Oh, that movie's so good. When I was a kid, Jesus. The scene that freaked me out when I was a kid wasn't the octopus scene. It was the scene immediately after that, where Gyra is chasing them when they're swimming. Yeah. And I'm like, I hate water anyways, so,
No. Has that movie had, like, a proper re-release at all? Or...
It's been restored. Toho restored it. It has not been released in the United States, and the version that Criterion has released isn't a very good quality version.
Yeah, I knew there were some like release problems with that movie.
Yeah, the original Classic Media release, the English version looked fine. The Japanese version looked terrible. It had like a blue filter over it, and you couldn't tell what was what. But the Toho restoration looks great.
That's good. That's good.
It looks great. That's the one that I have. Yeah, it looks great. And watching it on that 50-inch TV and 5.1 surround sound was quite awesome. But uh, but yeah, it was one of those. Have you seen Frankenstein Conquers the World yet?
Oh, I have not.
The introduction of Baragon.
That's why I'm upset with myself because I love Paragon.
Yeah, yeah,
I love Paragon. He's one of my favorites.
yeah. Baragon. The movie's all right.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
Like, I still want to watch it. It's the same thing. Like, I've heard Space Amoeba's terrible, but holy crap, I'll watch
It's
Brachiosaurus.
you see, Space Amoeba is more interesting because of what happened because of that movie.
Really.
That was the movie that brought about the '70s era Toho, because Eiji Tsuburaya died during the production of that movie. Even though he wasn't the one sitting down working on that film, it was his protege Sadamasa Arikawa. Tomiyuki, a podcast is getting released about this in a few weeks. Tomi Tanaka basically had a mental breakdown and was because of how much stress he was under and was in a hospital. And so another producer named Fumio Tanaka, no relation, took over as head of production on that movie. And during this time period, when the movie was all done, everyone wanted in memory of Eiji Tsuburaya at the beginning of the movie, and he said no. And without telling them that he removed it, it played in theaters, and a lot of people that worked on the movies went down to see it, saw that dedication was no longer there. They all quit. They were so angry over the fact that wasn't that he removed that. Literally, almost the entire Toho special effects staff quit. And
I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't notice. Justin said in the chat that Baragon's suit was like reused for a lot of Ultraman.
A lot of Ultraman monsters.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Gomez, you have seen Gomez because that was the first episode of Ultra Q.
Yeah.
Gomez.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. That wasn't a reused? Was that a reused Godzilla?
Yeah,
head,
that was that was the Godzilla 64 suit.
Yeah, because I couldn't at first. I was like, is it? But like the more I'm like, that has to be a reuse.
And then in Ultraman, there's another monster called Jiras, which Jiras was the 64 Godzilla suit with the 65 Godzilla suit's head attached to it.
Yeah.
And that's why, if you watch Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, about halfway through the movie, Godzilla's face drastically changes.
I remember you were telling me about this, actually. I do remember you telling me this story.
Yeah, and it was because of that. Because there was, especially early on in the age of Tsuburaya Productions, who made Ultra Q and all the Ultraman stuff, there was a lot of cannibalism between Toho and his production company, which is part of the animosity that started forming between Tsuburaya and Toho. It's really complicated and fascinating. The egos of these men. It's actually kind of fun reading. It's I could see myself doing a nowhere near as crazy, but like a Tiger King-esque documentary about the egos of all of these people working on these stupid movies. They're not stupid movies, but it gets a little crazy. You haven't seen Half Human, though.
I have not seen Half Human.
I have that. It's not a very good quality, because that's never been officially released, ever.
Was that? No, yeah, I haven't.
That was one of the ones that was banned, but that's about the abominable snowman. And that's one of the movies that the monster saves the film. The monster is the character. Not the humans. The humans kind of just progress the plot, and the monster is the actual character. That's one of those cases. Now, speaking of the abominable snowman.
Segue.
That's why I did it. See, this is another reason why I brought you on, is because I have a little bit more time on my hands because of everything that's been going down lately in the world. And so I've been kinda going back into my cryptid phase.
Yeah.
Because the cryptid phase is always the best phase.
My cryptid phase, like, I still love cryptid physiology. I just think it's really interesting. I think the concept of physiology is really interesting. And even then, even if like these creatures don't end up being real things, I think it's fun. I think it's fun to think like if these things could exist. I think there's a fun aspect to it. But like I found out what cryptozoology even was through a TV show called. It was a Canadian like documentary series. It was made for kids. It was called Mystery Hunters, and like that's how I found out what cryptozoology was. And then I found out at my school library we had a few like Bigfoot Loch Ness Monster books, and I'm
Same.
like, that slowly went me down this whole rabbit hole of me getting into it and finding other shows like there was another one, Truth or Scare, which was like, this was an American-made one that was a little more higher production than Mystery Hunters. They would have actual like really straight reenactions. Justin, I will get to that in a second.
Oh god, he mentioned Lost Tapes. Oh no.
I will get to Lost Tapes. But Truth or Scare, I actually found out in researching beforehand, it only had one season. I honestly thought it had more. Like, and that was a shame because I thought it was really fun. But there was also Monster Quest on History Channel.
That was my jam.
Too. I watched Monster Quest, but I want to get to it because Justin mentioned it. Lost Tapes is my love. I loved that show.
Man, really?
Let me tell you, Lost Tapes, I don't think is a fantastic show. I don't think it's fantastic. But at the very least, I think the first season's really something special.
First season was the best.
I think it's really something special because they used the limited budget they had, and like they really kind of shot things as if it were like to be shot by random people. Season 2 also was like that. It had a few episodes that were good like that. Season 3 is just absolute nonsense. There's like 1 or 2 decent episodes, and then they introduced the Enigma Corporation, which is like the Resident Evil stars.
Well, they turned it into a cinematic universe, didn't they?
Yeah, it was stupid. It was at the end, and like they made it more action. And I'm like, this is not why I wanted to watch this show.
Well, yeah, that's not why I wanted to watch. Now, I was one of those people because I was stupid and young when it first came out, but I thought it was real.
Oh no, Adam, don't. Me too. Like, when I first saw that show, it actually premiered, or the Chupacabra episode premiered first on Halloween, and like
I saw that one. That was the one that I watched that one. That one freaked me out.
Because also season 1, there was always those placeholder things at the beginning of each episode where it was like, this is that kind of stuff. Season 2 and 3 had this really like edgy version of it where there's like, oh, scratches and all that. The first season just has the quote unquote warning bits, and with just a low synth drone. And let me tell you, and like the text would flicker on and off as if it's like something like a light powering on and off. Let me tell you, 10 o'clock at night, slowly, like when that happened.
Oh yeah.
Like,
now let me show you something. I'm gonna go to.
Mothman was in episode 2. I think that was season 1.
There was a lot of good ones on season 1.
Yeah.
On season 1, there was a lot of interesting ones. Now I'm gonna share my screen with you, Lucas, for a moment.
Okay.
You should be able to see my screen now. You should be able to see my screen now. On Skype.
It is slowly jumping through. I just have a gray screen right now. No, we're good.
Okay.
Those are dogs.
I know. But this one right here, Animal X, that was what got me into a lot of stuff. Including the Texas Bigfoot, the one with like the three foot. Yeah, it was on Animal Planet. It was like 10 episodes. It was all right. It wasn't anything spectacular. But this introduced me to Mothman. Because they had an entire episode devoted to Mothman.
Mothman is one of my faves.
But they introduced me to the Texas Bigfoot.
Which was the Texas one?
Texas Bigfoot has 3 toes, supposedly. Let me look it up, actually. Texas Bigfoot.
Yeah, that wasn't Yowie, was it?
The Yowie is in Australia, I believe. Okay. But yeah, the thing with the Texas Bigfoot is apparently the Texas Bigfoot is really mean.
I love that drawing.
Yeah.
It was a drawing.
Yeah.
Well, because, for me, when it comes to like, a mean Sasquatch, or, like, Sasquatch-like creatures, you know the one I'm about to mention.
Yeah, you see, this is it. This is it here. The three-toed Bigfoot is apparently there. And they say that it's really fucking mean.
Yeah.
It's like, really standoffish, and it was a major inspiration for the Legend of Boggy Creek, the Texas Bigfoot.
Wait, wasn't that the Falcon Monster?
The Falcon Monster, and they think the Texas Bigfoot are the same thing.
Oh, okay. Because I always thought Falcon Monster was what inspired Boggy Creek.
Yes, it is. It truly is. Yes. But these guys said like it was one of the craziest things really out there. And that was on Animal X, and they found some weird ass shit on that episode. And no, we don't mean Yowie.
You know what? When I said that, I realized how it sounded, and I was
well,
like,
you can't ignore it, because that's literally how they call it.
Don't bring attention to it, Lucas, but apparently it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But yeah, that was it. And a lot of them say that the Dogman is actually that species or subspecies or whatever of Texas Bigfoot.
Dogman to me,
Dogman
like, the whole yes, 100 Dogman.
I don't
like,
believe
werewolf it. Yeah, it creeps. That scares me. That I don't know why. Maybe it's just like, you know how vicious a dog could get. Imagine that with like the build of a man, and it's like, holy shit. Beast of Bray Road was known. It was like kind of like a dog man that was known to be really aggressive too.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop sharing. There we go. Okay, you shouldn't see my screen anymore. But no. In all seriousness, I remember that episode of Monster Quest where they talked about the Dogman. And it turned out to be a hoax, and the filmmakers said, "Oh yeah, this is a hoax." But they recreated this scene.
Are you talking that footage?
Yes.
Of, oh, that's great.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
That's great stuff. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't remember the name of it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it made me want to go out there and fucking make something like that. It really did. And there was like a sequel to it where it was like the police come and see.
Yeah, the police, they made like a the police scene goes, and like the guy's like guts are all clawed out.
Yeah.
And like interesting because like what they did is they dug a hole, and the top half guy, his bottom half stood in that hole while the guts were like on a shirt or something. It was really interesting.
Yeah, but the thing is, the footage is really creepy.
It's when in that initial footage, when you see it move, is when it's like, because I remember it kind of like unnaturally hard cuts to it, which I think adds to it.
Yeah.
Like you get like just the family, and then it cuts to that, which to me, that I love when found footage does stuff like that. I think that's something that's underutilized with found footage.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the thing. Like I think if the Dogman is anything, it would be something like a Bigfoot creature. And the reason why I say this, and I'll be completely honest about this too, I don't know if I believe in Bigfoot or not anymore. I used to say that I did and everything like that. I don't think I really do anymore. However, I like to say I believe in the possibility of it. And this is...
That's the way I view it too, is that like even if they're not real, I think it's fun, and like it scares you a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with a little scare.
Well, it doesn't really scare me. And I was listening to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was talking about this. And he was talking with a guy who his job, he does a show on Animal Planet called Alive or Extinct, which is a great show, where they don't really look for cryptids, they look for actual
extinct like animals.
Yeah, and look if they're alive. And they've actually gotten results on that show. Like they were looking for this leopard in this specific area of Africa, and they got footage of the leopard. They said it was supposed to be extinct for like 50 or something years, and they fucking found it. And I'm like, that's awesome.
A big one for me growing up was, I might be pronouncing it wrong. It's either coelacanth or coelacanth, that fish.
Yep. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
It was presumed extinct for years.
It was a dinosaur thing, right?
Yeah, it was. But also another one is, this one's notorious, and I was so excited when this got confirmed. The giant squid.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
I was so I was fucking.
Oh, my father and I used to say that's out there, and everyone would laugh at us.
Yeah.
And wasn't it a Japanese ship that caught the footage of it?
Yeah.
And it turned out to be real. Well, first off, the fact that we know about the surface of the moon, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about our own oceans, I think is terrifying.
It is scary.
It's sort of like that stuff on the bloop.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own opinions on the bloop. The bloop, I think, was a military weapon. It was an experimental weapon, and that's what I think it is. I don't think that was a creature at all. But yeah, things like that were fascinating. But the reason why I brought it up in the scrolling text below, the New Zealand moose.
Yeah, what? What's going on with that?
Well, I'm obsessed with this. I am obsessed with this, the fact that New Zealand has moose. Because what happened was in the early 1900s, a bunch of fucking Canadians decided, you know what, we're going to introduce moose to New Zealand for some fucking reason.
Good idea.
And it's quite complicated, but apparently they thrive for quite a while. And I'll actually pull up an image of it, but it's actually kind of terrifying. It's called the Fiordland moose. It's kind of creepy. This is one of these things where it's like, have you ever seen these, like, let's see, like, we really shouldn't be seeing this. Hold on, I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Should be seeing it shortly. This is the Fiordland moose, right? That's a cow. Well, these photos were taken in the 50s, 1952, and these were the last confirmed sighting of the moose, okay? The Fiordland moose. And, well, first off, the ones in New Hampshire are tiny compared to the ones that are in, the ones that are in, like, Canada and the ones towards, like, the Yukon and everything like that, and the ones that they brought over to New Zealand were the bigger ones. Like, you see, here's the guy who was hunting a moose, in New Zealand, was this guy here. And you see, that's a moose. He's carrying a moose down the river. And that's probably the pelt in the head, by the way how it looks. I know that's a tiny image, forgive me. But, yeah. But you see, these guys, like this one here, that's the same moose that was in this image here. And, these are the last known photos of moose, and they've never really been seen after that, officially. And you see, and again, these pictures kind of freak me out. It's like, we shouldn't be looking at these pictures. And it's something about these black and white images that do that. And so that means that a tiny, tiny population of these fuckers have been living out in the middle of New Zealand for over 50 years and completely under our radar. And I want to be clear, New Zealand is a very weird, horrific jungle, right? But it's a tiny island. And to me, I'm like, if a giant fucking moose can be on this tiny island without being discovered for like 50-something years, to me, that has made the possibility of there being a great ape, because that would be what Bigfoot or Sasquatch would be classified as.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, that makes the possibility of one hiding in our jungles, or our forests here in the United States, to me, all the more plausible, because not only is there so much more untouched land here in the United States, but it's a vast, a much larger area for them to hide. And to me, I'm like, absolutely. The possibility of that being there, absolutely. And that goes into, like, the orang pendek well, this is what's creepy about the orang pendek, which is the Indonesian hobbit, is that they found a species of old humanoid people. They were in the Homo genus family. And again, this sort of went into why I was talking about, got kind of obsessed of, like, where we came from. You see, they recently found a new species of us. Sort of like, you know how there was us, we are the Homo sapiens, then there was like the Neanderthals. Yes. Well, they found another family called the Denisovans, which turned out to be a huge chunk of the missing DNA in pretty much all of Asia. And so not only do, like, if you go to people in Europe, it's our DNA ranges anywhere from 0.5% to 5% of Neanderthal DNA is mixed in with us, because there's crossbreeding and everything like that. And it's sort of why we became where we are today. Now in Asia, they have another one, and it's Denisovan DNA. The Denisovans, I'll type it up, and I'll show it. But it's kind of cool. I'm getting somewhere with this, I promise. And you see, they discovered all this from a fucking pinky bone. A pinky bone and a bit of a jawbone. And these... Like, that's insane. Yeah, literally. And, like, this is insane. That they could get all of that from a pinky bone. All of this information from a pinky bone, which I think is amazing. But, they were shocked at how much of it covered it filled in some of the gaps in our DNA, and it was these guys, and they only found these guys recently, by the way. I think it was in the 20-teens when they discovered a cave, and they happened to find, I believe it was a bit of a jawbone and a bit of a pinky. It was kind of like Gigantopithecus. Yeah, it was a big thing. I remember hearing about this too, but I didn't start paying attention to it until recently. But To be clear, it's kind of like Gigantopithecus. We have not found a skeleton of Gigantopithecus. We've only found a bit of the jaw and some femur bone and a hip bone. Which, to me, we only found hip bones recently, because until recently, we thought that the Gigantopithecus walked like gorillas. We essentially treated them like giant-ass gorillas. But when we found that hip bone of a subspecies of Gigantopithecus, it walked upright.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit. But anyways, what we discovered recently on the small island in Indonesia was, let's see, it was... Yes, Homo floresiensis. Another subspecies of humans. And these guys... look at that. But anyways, these guys, right, were 3 to 4 foot tall people that lived around where modern day Indonesia is. And I'm like, are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? And so to me, it confirms that the possibility of there being those hobbit people in Indonesia, the Orang Pendek. And I'm like, this is crazy. And yeah, because it's a very similar sort of description of these like ape men, but they're like 3 foot tall. And I'm like, the possibility of Orang Pendek being out there to me has only increased dramatically because of these discoveries. And of course, the jungles in Indonesia and Southern Asia are, like, almost completely untapped.
Yeah.
I mean, we're finding civilizations out there all the time. Where did my mouse go? There it is. But, yeah. To me, those only confirmed, or sort of reaffirmed the idea of there being a possibility of these things out there. I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now.
Yeah, no, it's like... To me, I just view it the same way too, where it's like, yeah, we've discovered a lot. We have discovered a lot in our history, but at the same time, there's a lot we don't know, and we don't know what else is hiding out there too, which is where the kind of adventurous part of it comes from, for me at least.
Justin says, imagine if we eventually found more gigantofossils and they end up resembling the Toho Kong. They kind of do.
Oh, fuck
yeah. They kind of do. They literally look like upright gorillas. And I don't know if you've heard of this either. Have you heard of the bonobo apes in the Congo?
Yes.
They only found those recently, or proved of their existence recently. And in fact, one of the most famous Bigfoot images, because of them recently finding this, it's been sort of proven that it was one of those bonobo apes. And what's interesting about the bonobo apes, or the Bile apes, that live in the Congo, is that they're basically 6 foot tall chimps that act like gorillas. But they're also called jaguar killers. They hunt jaguars and eat them. And
that's kind of bad, I'm not gonna lie.
These things are terrifying, I'll tell you. Let's see, the Bile...
Like, going out of your way to hunt, that's fucking badass.
I'll show you, I'll show you the image. And I betcha you'd have seen it before. But one of the other things that sort of freaks people out is that these things walk upright. If they're walking on 2 legs, they walk upright. They don't hunch over. Yes. Okay, I found it. I'm gonna share it right now so everyone can see it. And now I'm gonna share it with you, Lucas. Should be able to start seeing it now. This is a rather famous cryptid Bigfoot photo. Where it's like this dude shot it, and then somehow the body mysteriously disappeared. However, the finding of these Bile apes, the bonobo apes, it proved that that's what this is. It's very clearly what this is. And this is one of the most famous Bigfoot pictures out there. There's another one up here that I can show you, too, that I find very interesting. This one. This one's a rather famous, like, wow, look at this mysterious ape. And that's one of them. And only recently did the... Yeah, you see, here they are. They're eating a fucking jaguar. And I'm like, that's crazy. Oh, yeah, here's Gigantopithecus. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. That's the Jack Link's beef jerky Bigfoot. Oops. But yeah, I really like that. Oh yeah, here was one of the trail cams of them walking upright. Yeah. That's terrifying. But yeah, they proved to be real, and that was only recent. So I'm like, that's really fucking cool, actually. And kind of terrifying. I'm glad I don't live in Africa. Well, to me, it just increases the possibility of there being an undiscovered primate.
Yeah, that too.
Because what's interesting is recently, as well, they found a new subspecies of Homo sapien. Nova did an amazing documentary about it. They found this cave with a whole new species of Homo sapien in there, and this is very early Homo sapien. Like, this is even before Neanderthals were a thing, or even the Denisovans were a thing. And this cave was littered with over 1,500 different bodies of the same species. And at first they thought it was just like, oh, they were hunted by like jaguars and stuff like that, and then dragged in. Because they've seen cases of that all over the place. However, there was no other type of bone with them. It was just them. Because usually if it was a predator, you'd get other kinds of types of bones in there.
Yeah.
And so it's very debatable. It's been debated pretty hotly in the anthropology whatever community, which they bicker just like little children sometimes.
I mean, that image alone though is it's very foreboding in general. Just finding a room filled of skeletons of the same species, but only that.
Well, they
species.
found it by accident because there was this guy who used to be in the army, and this is in South Africa. And there was this guy who used to be in the army. He was like, he liked fossil hunting. That was kind of like his hobby. And so he went to this professor who happened to discover a species of Arthropithecus, a new species of that. Which those were Homo sapiens before we became Homo sapiens. Yeah. It's a huge thing. But he went to him and said, "Hey, could you hire me? Like, I really need a job. I'll help you. I can squeeze into caves and everything like that. I'll help you." And he said, "Okay, check out this cave." He found them. He found this little crevice in between these two areas of the cave, and because he was able to squeeze his way in there, he found these bones all over the place. And like, apparently he arrived at the guy's house at like 9:30 p.m. He's about to go to bed, this scientist, and he's like, "You gotta see this." Like, it's a really cool story. It would be really good to see. That's something I could see a movie being made of. This big discovery. But what they kind of hinted at, and what they were kind of concluding, is that this was a burial chamber.
You know, that's kind of, when you were describing it, I was kind of thinking that too.
And if this is true, this is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years before the first known cases of this was ever really done. Which would push our evolutionary chain back a lot further than what it is now. It would rewrite a lot of our evolutionary progression. And, of course, this is heavily debated amongst the community, because there's very little proof to go on. Like, what is it? But the idea that they would put their dead in this cave and kind of bury them in this mud, which is what preserved the bones, by the way, is really interesting, and to me, almost validates this idea, because a lot of really big skeptics, and I know this sounds like I'm being a believer of an irrational believer of Bigfoot right now. I really am a skeptic.
Yeah.
But to me, it sort of lends proof to the fact that we've never found a body of Bigfoot. Because that's one of the big things you'll hear from skeptics, is they'll go, why haven't we found a body? You think we'd have found a body by now.
Yeah.
My father always joked that they said they probably bury their dead. And to me, these humanoids, them burying their dead, the likelihood that they probably buried their dead in this cave, lends proof that it's quite possible that actually might be the case. Or at least they know how to take care of it.
Yeah, that's really something to think about. Like,
and I'm sitting there, like, and I'm watching these documentaries, and I'm like, oh my god, this is fascinating and terrifying and cool and awesome and really interesting. And I'm like, I eat this shit up. Like, I was talking to Antonio about this, and I'm not kidding when I say this. If it wasn't for the fact that I like writing stories so much, and that brings me genuine joy, I probably would have become a paleontologist. Because of how much, particularly this type of shit here, them finding the fossils and trying to find the linking DNA from this to that and all of that fascinates me to no fucking end. Yeah. Like, it's hard to believe that 500,000 years ago, where we're sitting right now was dominated by woolly mammoths. Well, not woolly mammoths, they were called mastodons, but they were a species of woolly mammoth. The giant short-faced bear that makes the polar bear look tiny. Megafauna. Like, that's terrifying. The giant sloth, for example, people think are still alive.
It's actually funny you bring that up, because, like, I was thinking about that the other day, how it was, like, it really is, like, how we are now, and then you think about, like, what it was millions and millions of years ago. It's kind of terrifying when you think
Well, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And if you really look at, like, how young our planet is, or how old our planet is, like, the dinosaurs even are very, very young. And people think, and of course this is highly debatable, but the genuine mainstream science says that it basically has taken only 800,000 years for us to reach from us being apes to where we are now. Yeah. That's crazy. That's less than a blink of an eye in geography terms.
Yeah.
And that is really cool. And it's even harder to believe that, like, only like 1,000 years ago, Rome was there. You know, like, Rome was a thing. And then it's even harder to believe that 1,000 years before that we had Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And to Alexander the Great, the pyramids were ancient. To sort of see how old those fucking things are. It's quite crazy. Like, they didn't think that, like, they thought that, like, man was only on this continent, North American continent, about 50,000 years ago. That's when they crossed over here. Yeah. Now they found mastodon bones that have clear spear wounds in them from over 130,000 years ago. And so they're wondering, what the fuck happened? Is this... And they're almost, like, afraid to say anything about it because they don't have that much info on it.
Yeah, cause I also like, too, with the whole, like, grand scheme of things of, like time in that aspect, is I tend to also think of, like years into the future, like, what's going to be the next change exactly, or, like, what will be...
Well, that's crazy, too. I was reading a book called Seven Eves, which a part of that is about, like, the moon explodes and it causes the end of the planet. That's a very bare bones version of it. And, like, the first 2 parts of the book is us moving out into space to save our species. And then the last section of the book, which is my least favorite section, but the ideas are interesting, is it jumps 50,000 years in the future. and we're no longer human as we are right now.
Yeah.
We're a new species, but we're still within that same homogeneous aspect. So, there was another thing that I wanted to say, and this sort of got brought into that. There's basically two genuses when it came to us becoming us. There was Australopithecus, and then there was Homo genus.
Yeah.
And for a long time there, and I've even said this to you, only recently have I, like within the last month, have I changed my stance on this. But I used to have hope that if we found Bigfoot, it would probably be that missing link between us and the apes. Because apes are far more related to Australopithecus than we are.
Yeah.
However, now I've seen all of these different subspecies, and I've actually seen the chains, and I'm like, it really wouldn't work that way. How we've been able to jump to homogeneous family from Australopithecus, it's all... And Australopithecus, they were still a species while we were being Homo sapiens and everything like that. Australopithecus is a fun word, I know. And it's a lot more complicated than I ever imagined, and it's only fueled my interest in it. And if there's anything that it like proved to me was it's like there's so much shit that's still undiscovered on this planet.
And it also, like, that too, as cheeky as it sounds, it's kind of beautiful when you think about it too. Is that like we have touched so many things, but at the same time, there's so much we haven't. Really
there's so much more that we have to touch.
I love like deep sea creatures and stuff like
Ooh,
that.
yeah.
They're so weird and just like alien looking. I love them.
Oh, the like I just can't wrap my head around like how did they form bioluminescence?
Yeah,
like that's crazy.
How did that happen? How does like an angular fish naturally form a thing on its head that baits something to it?
How the fuck do octopuses change their skin color and skin texture to hide?
How the fuck do sharks constantly have teeth that regrow?
That's crazy.
Yeah. I was slightly joking, but at the same time, no, that is kind of...
That is crazy, and kind of a miracle. I think crocs do, too. I think crocodiles have teeth that grow.
Yeah.
Sort of brings everything back to annihilation.
the crocodile with the shark teeth.
Yeah. It's crazy how... Now, a lot of people say that it's almost... I think it's beautiful how very finite our evolution has been to get to where we are today. I think it's almost very beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'll easily say this. I think if somebody shot a Bigfoot and found it, it would be the greatest discovery of the century.
I think you're right. I agree with you on that too. I mean, just because of the legacy alone.
The lore, yeah.
It's like it's literally like finding that missing. Well, not like literally like if.
Well,
if
you
actually...
could call it a missing link. It wouldn't be quite the same thing, but yeah, it's crazy. Now,
think of all the closure a lot of people would have. Like
a lot of closure, including me. Yeah.
If Bigfoot was real, and someone shot one, and now we know it's real. Think about all the closure for the people who no one believed them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That to me, it's kind of beautiful. Like being able to actually have that closure, if it is real.
If it is real, though, I'll say I think it would be more likely that something like the orang pendek existed, or I actually think it's more plausible the yeti exists than Sasquatch here in North America. And I'll say that again because the yeti actually kind of freaks me out too. Out of curiosity, did you ever watch the Wild Thornberrys?
Not a lot of it. I wasn't a huge fan of that one growing up, but I watched some of it.
I loved that show.
Episode.
There is a yeti episode. There is a yeti episode, and Eliza Thornberry thinks they're finding a yeti, gets caught by these poachers, right? And it's such a good twist. She discovers that whoever's posing as the yeti, is terrifying this town, is actually like a scientist trying to get people out of there because he's looking for it. It's kind of a selfish reason. But deep down, he's actually a good guy. And so she discovers that, well, apparently there's these poachers that come around because of this yeti. And so she gets in trouble with them, and they bring her up to a cave, and she thinks it's the guy dressed up as the Yeti, scaring them and saving her.
Yeah.
But when she climbs back down from the cave and meets the guy, she says thank you, and he goes, for what? And she realizes it wasn't him.
Yeah.
It was an actual Yeti. It's a really good episode, and it's very clear that the writers of that show did their research, which is what I like about that show. Every animal they approached in that show, the writers cared, and like did their damnedest to research what they do. But that was one of my favorite episodes. Was that one?
I wish more cartoons like and stuff went into, at least growing up for me, like went into more like not just Bigfoot, like other cryptids too. There was actually, I remember there was a cartoon on Cartoon Network. It was called The Secret Saturdays, and it was like an action show, but like it was about cryptozoology, and like they were getting like obscure cryptids on there too. And I was like, I thought the show was okay. I need to like kind of look it over again, but they were getting like obscure ones too. I'm blanking on the name of it. There was like a bat cryptid that like I knew of, but
I always thought the bat cryptid was. I know that they have stories of giant bats in Indonesia.
Yeah.
But which I also believe, because I don't see why not.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like finally to see a show tackle cryptids, I'm like, oh wow.
Well, you're obsessed with the Mothman, right?
I do. I really like the Mothman.
So why don't talk about him? Talk about this Mothman.
So the Mothman was a creature that, we're going to go through the basic history of it. It appeared in, I want to just double check.
It's the 60s, I think.
With 60s, I'm checking.
So I don't know too much about the Mothman, to be honest.
I have some cheat sheets up here just to remind me. 1966 was like the first sighting of it. And the thing that was kind of unique to the Mothman was it only showed up mostly for a specific period of time, which led to it was a bridge collapse in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, I believe.
It was in Virginia, or was it West Virginia?
West Virginia. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was the 1967 collapse of the Silver Bridge, and it was the death of 46 people. And the reason why that's interesting to me is that I like the idea of the Mothman being portrayed as not as like a malevolent creature that causes this, but almost like a warning. Is like a warning to warning people this tragedy is about to happen, because it was spotted multiple times by that bridge too, I believe. And I think that's interesting.
I think so. It's apparently really bad. I remember it being really boring until the ending.
It's this weird entity that like is foreshadowing things just by its presence being there.
Well, I certainly wish it picked a less terrifying look.
I love how it looks. I think the thing is so.
Well, I want you to picture this, Lucas.
Yes. If you're going with like Lucas, what if you were walking around and I would be shitting my fucking pants? But I still think it's cool as shit.
It's a fascinating story. I'll be honest. I don't think I believe it.
I don't know either.
I think it was a case of mass hysteria.
I think you might be right too. But like, it is just, to me, what's interesting about it is the fact that it was just a specific period. It was just one period of time. That to me is what I find interesting.
It was definitely, yeah. It was.
And that's what it's another case of like, I don't think it was real, but I kind of like to believe it was real. Because it's, I don't know, it's interesting.
I'm not sure how. Like, you're obsessed with this thing. Like you were talking to. I remember we were like doing a film meeting or something. You were there, and we just started talking about Mothman. And I was like, oh wow, somebody actually knows kind of about Mothman, and you floored me that you knew so much about it.
Yeah, because like it was one of the ones that like growing up I grew fascinated in. Like it started with just seeing its design, like what people described it as, and then reading more into it, how it's like this creature that was like appearing at all these events that were happening, or at least foreshadowing an event.
Now you see, like the red eyes, I can kind of believe in, because if you shine lights into
Yeah.
like a deer's
Yeah,
eyes at night, they'll glow red. And according to some of these stories, it was like they were driving in their car at night.
yeah. There's a famous one. I think it's like a husband and wife were driving, and the thing was like along their car, like it was flying along their.
And
car.
like if they have their high beams on or anything like
Yeah.
that, sure, I could see their eyes glowing red. Rabbits will do that. I know that if you shine a light into a rabbit's eye, it'll glow red. But it's, yeah, definitely. I find it to be a more interesting story than an interesting cryptid.
Yeah, I think I can get what you're saying. I can get that. Adam, do you? Because this was something I wanted to mention to you. Do you consider, because like they kind of get lumped together, and I kind of mentioned it before. Do you lump alien knowledge with cryptids? Do you lump that together, or like?
I was actually going to ask that question.
Because like I
don't think I
kinda
do.
consider two different things. Yeah, I consider, because I think cryptids are more like Earth-based things,
Yeah.
and like aliens are like kind of more clearly like there's more things hitting it being.
Well, aliens freak me out.
Aliens. I mean, aliens are a scary concept that there are other species that are intelligent, maybe more intelligent than us, and even then using us as their like little like playthings or something.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe yes. So because I mean, we do the same thing to animals here.
I know that too. But, yeah, I was gonna get to the theories. That,
Oh,
like,
especially monkeys. We do that to monkeys. I mean, I could picture aliens being like, "Look at those weird monkeys that are just barely getting technology." But there's aliens creep me out for multiple different reasons. It creeps me out. The biggest thing is that it's extraterrestrial. It's nothing from this planet, remotely from this planet. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Two, they'll do it at night. They'll abduct you at night while you're sleeping, and then you not remember it.
That's the scary thing to me, is that like a lot of alien stories are all like dead of night in the middle of a lot of times, sometimes in the middle of nowhere.
Barney and Betty Hill. Have you heard of the Barney and Betty Hill abduction?
That sounds very familiar.
That happened by where I live. That happened literally about 20 minutes south of where I live, in Franconia Notch, where I used to live. And every night when we had to drive through Franconia Notch at night, there's even a little sign that says this is where the Barney and Betty Hill incident happened. I liked freaking out my mother and saying we're going to get abducted by aliens. But that was one of the most famous alien abduction stories. And it's terrifying because... And what's interesting is, I think this is an immensely underrated movie, but The Fourth Kind.
I remember that one.
I love that movie. I think if it wasn't, they marketed it differently and said it wasn't based on a true story, which really pissed me off because it's not based on a true story.
Visually do something with the aliens that they looked almost like like owl.
It looked like an owl, which kind of fits into the Mothman theory.
Yeah, that it was like an owl. Well, there's also like Owlman, like owl.
Oh yeah, I have heard of that. But I just remembered reading something on the Mothman.
Yeah.
But it was creepy. But one of the things that really plays into is something called missing time. And missing time is terrifying to me. Like if Antonia and I are serious about making an ARG, missing time I'd say that needs to be the theme of it.
What was missing time?
Missing time is when people are just doing mundane things and suddenly time jumps a few hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And things like that, and it deals with alien abduction. And the Barney and Betty Hill story, along with some of the ones, I believe the movie Fire in the Sky was based on another story similar to the Barney and Betty Hill case, where they're driving down the road, doing their own thing, suddenly they jump forward several hours into the future and don't know what happened. And everything is normal until they start dreaming and remembering what happened because of their dreams.
Yeah.
And that's missing time. And that stuff is terrifying. One, because we all kind of experience missing time in some cases, because like we're sleeping and you're kind of in that in-between state where you're kind of like, I'm awake but I'm asleep. And sort of things, and that kind of goes into a lot of sleep paralysis, which sleep paralysis is a real thing.
Yeah, that is a real thing. I haven't had it too often. I've had it like once or twice.
I'm blessed I have not.
I have had it like once or twice. The first time it wasn't bad. I just couldn't move, but I was clearly awake.
Mm-hmm.
The second time was the one time I actually kind of saw like a quote unquote shadow person or something, and I remember trying to like yell, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
That was like I've only had it very infrequently, like not even to the point of frequency.
And a lot of people think that those stories are alien abductions when it's not. It's your brain in a really weird state of consciousness and unconsciousness.
Yeah.
It's completely natural. It's nothing paranormal.
Scary
Oh,
shit.
absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know if you. There's a good documentary on sleep paralysis that I watched, and it is terrifying. But one of the things that the doctors in there was talking about was he's like, I want people to know, if people get anything from this documentary, it is that it is a completely natural occurrence. There's nothing wrong with you. And you're not getting abducted by aliens.
That's actually, it's reassuring to hear that too. Not even just because like, oh, I didn't think I was being abducted by aliens. It's kind of reassuring to hear that in general, because like when it happens, like people don't know really how to. At least I didn't know how to respond to it. I was like,
well, a lot of people don't. It's after the fact, like when they actually wake up, that's how you start processing the information. And so that's where I think a lot of these alien abduction stories happen, because some of these people would have it when they're driving. And a part of me is like, you know what? That's probably sleep paralysis. They got it when they were driving. Or people who are driving. This is a real thing, too. People who will be driving home late at night and suddenly wind up being home.
Yeah, I remember.
And that's kind of terrifying, because you're kind of sleeping on the road. You're having a sleep paralysis moment on the road. Because that's another form of sleep paralysis.
Because I also, like, there was one other, I actually just remembered it now. That, like, there was one moment when I was really young. I want to say this was, like, middle school. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I opened my eyes, and I saw almost, like, a shadow person at the end of my bed quickly go down, like, as if it's hiding itself from me. And I thought it was, like, my brother playing a prank on me or something. And I got out of bed, and there was no one there. And I'm like, to this day, I still, like, that one, too, is, like, I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Oh yeah, I'm not saying like this is what I was saying was in no way like putting down people who have it. It is. I bet you it is absolutely terrifying. Again, I can't say I've really experienced that I know of.
It was that one specifically. I am really remembering now. It was in the moment. It's not what it was after I got out of bed and saw there was nothing. That's when it like settled in, like, especially because my brain was a lot bigger then too. It was like,
I remember having dreams of ghosts. That's what I had when I was young, really young. So, specifically in my closet. It's why to this day, if I had a closet in my room where I am right now, I would shut the door.
I remember, ghosts. I didn't have a lot of stories with ghosts, to be honest. I remember there was, for the longest time, I would always hear when I'm trying to sleep, and like this is gonna be a really like nonsense conclusion. I would just hear a loud like
a bang. Yeah.
It'd be a series, just a few of them. And initially, what it sounded like my neighbors. They had a big wiffle ball bat, and it sounded like if you like tap the wiffle ball bat on the ground. So every time it would happen, I would peek outside. There's nothing outside. And it really, as I got older, I realized what it was. It was just pipes in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the moment, it was like,
especially when you're little. When I was little, when I would first be home alone, it was always those little tiny creaks that freaked me out the most.
Old pipes.
And I would be really scared. There was an old Bigfoot book, because our library lady, her name was Sue Crafton, she was a sweetheart, and knew that my dad and I liked weird shit. And she went out of her way and found a bunch of books for us to take out to read on Bigfoot. One was a big blue book. I don't even think that's what it was called, because of Project Blue Book, that's alien. But it was a big blue book. And I remember reading the introduction, and it was just like, you're home alone. You're in the middle of the woods, and something is staring at you through the window. And you don't know it.
Dude, that reminds me, there was like a, I don't think it was a creepypasta or anything. It was like
creepypastas.
It was like an old kind of story that would go around the internet, where a guy is in a log cabin, and he sees all these portraits on the wall on the walls. He goes to bed. He wakes up in the morning. It wasn't portraits. Those were just windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that one. That one to me when I
Yeah,
first read that,
that's
was,
a creepypasta I know about. What? Wait, was that? No, that wasn't the Russian sleeping experiment.
No, that wasn't Russian for me.
Well,
it was just a simple story of just like guy goes to cabin, stays over for the night.
The Russian sleeping experiment's genuinely creepy because part of that is real.
Yeah.
They genuinely did that. How long can you stand without going into, particularly going into what's called REM sleep?
Yeah.
Which, because what a lot of people, what happens is when you're sleeping, your eyes are moving all over the place. And that's why it's called rapid eye movement. And if you don't go into that level of sleep, you're actually not getting real sleep. And it's really detrimental to your health.
Yeah.
So, it's actually really creepy. There's an episode of Star Trek TNG that actually goes into that. There's something keeping everyone from getting REM sleep. And it's terrifying. And it's like, what's terrifying about the episode is what it's causing everyone on the ship to do. Because people aren't really sleeping. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of terrifying. That could be a horror story.
I do want to mention Martin come to the chat about the Amityville hauntings. I'm actually not too familiar on them, to be totally honest. Yeah. I mean, like, I really am not.
My friend Jake used to live right by the Amityville horror house here.
Really?
Yeah. And I've seen it. I've seen the Amityville house. I do not believe in the Amityville horror story at all, but it's a creepy story. The movie does not do it justice. To me, the actual real story is creepier.
Yeah.
Than what the movie does, because the movie starts going kind of over the top with it.
Yeah.
But like they were seeing pigs, this pig that would just watch her with glowing red eyes and things like that. To me, that's creepy.
Out of context, it's kind of hilarious, but I can see the creepiness to it.
Well, I hate pigs. Pigs are creepy to me, anyways. But yeah.
This is why I like pigs.
Swine.
They go oink.
Well, pigs are terrible creatures, and I'll tell you why. If they go out in the woods, they are like ruining habitats right now because of how much they just rape and pillage.
In all honesty, Adam, you could have just ended that sentence like, pigs are just terrible creatures.
Pigs are terrible creatures.
Anyway.
Oh, wasn't there a Monster Quest episode on Hogzilla?
Oh yes, there was. Hogzilla.
I can't remember what that was even about, but it was just a giant pig.
There was also, I want to mention this, I know this is like really irrelevant, but there's a Monster Quest episode about super rats, and that reminded me...
I liked that episode.
When I was re-going through the list of stuff here, I saw super rats, and it reminded me of one thing that pissed me off in Joker.
Uh-oh.
There's a bit in Joker where there's a newspaper, and throughout the movie they're reporting about, like, massive super rats in the city. We never see a fucking single super rat, okay? You can't just dangle that in front of me and be like...
Isn't there a Batman...
I think that was like an obscure reference to something. I don't really know, but like I was so mad. I'm like, I want to see a fucking super rat.
But yeah, that was one of them. But I like that episode because rats are horrifying.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah. No. That's not. See, that's for me. Like rats are just like. No.
See, like mice, I can deal with. You
Yeah.
play a couple traps out, eventually you kind of take care of the problem. And if that doesn't take care of the problem, you put out the rat poison.
I can tolerate like a domesticated rat too, where it's just like one of them. But like, it really like occurred to me recently when I did like a small shoot thing for school in the city, and I actually saw like nonchalantly in Central Park city rats just kind of running around. I'm like,
they eat babies, Lucas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They fucking eat babies.
I mean, they probably eat anything.
Yeah, but rats are gross, disgusting creatures. They are some of the filthiest creatures on the face of the planet.
I'm going through the Monster Quest episode listings. I don't even remember this one. Oh, okay, and I see what it is. The episode was called Boneless Horror. What do you think that was about?
Jellyfish?
Giant octopus.
Okay.
Because
the giant octopus.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There was a Lost Tapes episode about that.
Oh, was there? Okay.
That was
well,
the episode,
why not?
That was a season 1. I like that.
We know so little about the oceans. Why not? I mean,
yeah.
Giant squids exist. Of course, there's going to be the Kraken.
Oh, to me also, another cryptid I really like. I just like the more so the history about it. I don't think this one's real. The Jersey Devil has always been an interesting one to me.
That one reminds me of there's also this thing during the Battle of Shiloh during the Civil War. There is the Shiloh ghost or the Shiloh demon that, like, during the battle terrorized particularly the wounded.
Yeah.
That, like, it was an evil spirit, like, brought back because of how much carnage there was during the battle. Of course, it's all folklore and everything like
Adam,
that.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Apparently, Justin just said in Joker we do see brief glimpses of the super rats, and now I'm really mad I didn't notice it.
I didn't notice it either,
I
so...
don't want to rewatch the movie, but fuck. I need to see these damn rats.
I didn't see it either, so... But Justin actually brings up a good thing, though. Those ape-human hybrids that Stalin wanted to do during World War II. That was a terrible episode, but the story is true.
Sorry, I don't like to think about that story.
The story is very much so true.
Yeah, and I don't like to think... I wish I never knew it happened.
Yeah, it's really disturbing, but...
That's like, yeah, that's like the too far... I'm like, okay, over the line.
Speaking of Russia... I know I've at least talked about this a couple of times, because it's one of my favorite unsolved mysteries of ever, really. The Dyatlov Pass incident.
I don't think I know that one.
Well, so essentially what has happened is these hikers, very experienced hikers, were going through these mountains. They were hiking when a storm hit. And... they'd never reached the checkpoint. No one ever called back. So it took about a few weeks, but they got really worried about it. Because the reason why they waited so long was because these guys were experienced hikers. All of them. Very experienced hikers. Been all over Russia. And Russia has some of the worst weather and worst mountain passes ever in the world. And so they weren't really worried. But then it got too long. The wait got too long, and they hadn't heard from them. And so they sent a search party, found them. And it was the state of how they found them that is the mystery. So the first thing they found was and again, there's a lot of great videos on YouTube about what happened and the autopsy results and everything like that of these of these bodies. And I'm not going to do it justice, but essentially the first thing they find is the cave. Not the cave. The first thing they find is the tent. And they notice immediately the tent was not blown in because they found a huge hole on the side of it. It was cut out, meaning that they were inside the tent and had to cut their way out of the tent.
Really?
Yes. The next thing they discovered was that a lot of them were barefoot, wearing nothing but underwear, because they found clothing all over the place, and inside the tent. Next thing they discovered was the first body. And the first body they discovered had no visible external markings on him. But when they did an x-ray of his bodies, it looked like he got hit by a freight train. Then they find the girl, the only girl on the mission. And her eyes are gone. Her tongue has been neatly cut out.
What the fucking shit?
And she was clearly alive when this happened, because they found not only blood in her stomach, but there are parts of her brain that stimulate pain. The index of urine pain react to this. Were clearly being stimulated before she died. The next thing that they find is the next bunch of people were all hiding under a tree. And one of them was actually making their way back to the tent before he died, and they think he probably died of... They thought he just died of hypothermia, because they're fucking naked out in the middle of freezing cold, until they discovered his clothing was radioactive.
What the fuck?
Then they find the other guys buried underneath. What they did was they kind of built their own shelter, and they kind of froze to death, but they were also radioactive.
The layers just keep getting added up to this. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is one of the strangest unsolved mysteries ever. Now, they think they might have solved it, and it actually kind of makes sense. Because all of the theories of, and I won't go into the theory, but all of the theories, I have my own opinions on it. But all of these, what's crazy is that one of them had a camera with them. They had a camera with them, and it's really creepy looking at their pictures of them on the hike. smiling and doing all this and doing weird stuff. Like, there's pictures of them setting up the fucking tent.
Yeah.
And the last picture looks like a flare in the sky. Which, of course, fueled, like, UFO stuff. But to me, they probably actually did just shoot up a flare. And stuff like that. But whatever. And that was the last picture that was in the album. And all of these sort of solutions, quote-unquote solutions, no, it doesn't remind me of The Thing. To me, this is even more terrifying than The Thing. I'm sorry. Because at least The Thing, we know it's a thing, and it acts like a virus. In the very least, that's what we can look at. This, we have no idea what the fuck happened. But all of the proposed, including the official record, because the official records is only deepened the mystery because they refused to release a lot of the results of the autopsy. And the stuff that they did release had a shit ton of stuff censored out of it.
Oh boy.
Which makes me think that the Russian KGB was involved, which is what I think happened. But but there's other stories that are involved. That even if it was the KGB, that's a terrifying story. To the point I wrote a short film based off of the Dyatlov Pass incident. And the thing that, like, there was one member of the band that survived because he wasn't there. He had to turn back because I think he got really sick. Really sick. And he was sitting there like, oh my god. And he was the one that really headed the search for them. But they found him. And of course, it was called the Dyatlov Pass incident because the guy's name was Dyatlov. He was the guy that was the head of this party. And they found him dead too. And, you know, he was out there and everything like that. But he was a very experienced hiker. And it's just every single thing of people bringing up explanations for what happened. None of them really, except for one. One of them kind of did. But
what was that did?
It had something to do with like it's called a down shear. Which down shears are terrifying. Down shears are when like the geography of the area where I grew up, we'd get these all the time, and they're terrifying. And it's something like a massive, hard gust of wind hits. And what happens is this tent had kind of like a furnace in it, a makeshift furnace. And so the theory is that what happened, the furnace went bad. Because there's evidence in journal entries and stuff like that say like the furnace was bad, but it apparently got cold enough that they actually lit the furnace. Part of them think that the furnace started exploding kind of inside their tent, and they're like, "Fuck, we got to get out of here." So they started cutting their way out of the tent to get out of there in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that's the theory. And then what happened? It was like a perfect storm of shit. All of a sudden, as soon as they get out there, a downshear hit, leaving them completely stranded, not really knowing where they're going because of how horrible everything is.
To me, there's just so many different fucking variables. When you mentioned the radiation part, that's where I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
The part that creeps me out is the girl. The missing eyes and the tongue. That's the one that freaks me out. There are pictures of these. I'm going to show you.
Oh, I don't want to see it. Adam, you're going to get demonetized.
Oh, boo-hoo. Well, I specifically had Antonio on during the last show because they just said you became a YouTube partner, and I'm like, oh, let's fucking make them regret their decision. Well, I won't show you. I won't share my screen, but I will for the audience. Like, look at that. Yeah, there's the tent. There's the state of the tent. Yeah, there was one of the bodies, too, that they found. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture of the girl, though. Yeah, this is fake. This proved to be fake. They said that was the last one. They think a yeti did it for a while. It'll be up in a little bit. I'll share it. But a lot of people think, like, the girl's eyes and tongue are missing because they were actually eaten by scavengers, which makes sense. And then the blood just drained into her stomach. However, that doesn't really explain why she was experiencing pain. There's also a crazy tale about the man from Brazil that he just washed up on the lake's shores one day, completely mutilated.
But like, it's more so like how it happened and like the aftermath of it. That's how I view it, at least. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is truly a sad
yeah,
story.
it's
I mean, these were just a bunch of people, very experienced hikers. They get fucked. But in
yeah.
terms of those two girls that you mentioned, why I think there's just pictures of dark forest is just because they were trying to quickly illuminate their surroundings.
I was getting to that. Is that like it's like that's what's so kind of unsettling and upsetting about those last few photos, that like that's so clearly what they're trying to do.
I know, and I'm sitting there because a part of me, and this is going to sound terrible too. I believe they were warned not to do what they were going to do.
I think you're right too. I think you're right, but at the same time, it's
At least
like,
with at least, well, if they were going to do it, they needed to have some sort of really professional guide with them, because it was tough terrain that they were going to hike. And for the record, in the area where I was, in the presidential mountain range, this shit happened all the time. All the time, people would not really go missing, but they would get lost. And they would have like a cell phone on them and be like, "Yo, we're lost. Can somebody help us?" And the Fish and Game and the police would have to go out and kind of search for them.
Yeah.
There was a really big case, and this wasn't that long after I went hiking on Mount Jefferson, which is right by Mount Washington. And in between Mount Jefferson and Mount Washington, there was this gully, right? And there was I mean, this is in the middle of the summer. Snow. There was snow there. There was snow still left there. And when we were hiking, when we were coming down off of the mountain, we saw people walking down there to basically get in with the snow and stuff like that. Didn't think anything of it. Until about a couple of days later, we learned that there are hikers that went missing, and they went missing because they went off the trail to go towards that snow. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, especially in high elevations, things can look a lot closer than they are.
Yeah.
And that's the case with the snow, because the snow looked like it was about a mile down the mountain. However, a mile, when you look at it, can turn out to be 5-10 miles climbing, in terms of actually having to get there. And you lose track of where you are very easily. And I'm telling you, these people look so tiny down there and everything like that. And we didn't think anything about it. We really didn't, until later we found out that, hey, probably quite a few of them got lost.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to get lost in the woods. It really is.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Not that it like turns me off from ever going into like woods or stuff, but like it does actually, like, it's a little foreboding. Like, just like, you got to be really careful, man.
Well,
I feel like my grandparents. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Well, I've just been in the woods a lot, so like I've not only.
Yeah, for you it's natural. Like, it's you know. But I really think about like my grandparents in their old house when they lived kind of closer by me. They lived in like town over. They had like a forest back there. It wasn't the hugest one, but like understand I was a lot younger too. So like if I went in there by myself, like who knows what's gonna fucking happen, man. Like,
well, it's very easy, like, because again, I got some training. Like, you know, to me, I always have a compass because I know where the sun rises and where the sun sets. And even if I was in an area of woods hunting that I didn't really know, I always know that if I headed east, I was going to hit Gorham at some point.
Yeah.
That's always what I knew if I ever got lost. So I never, no matter how bad it was, and there were some times that I did kind of freak out a little bit. It helped that I had somebody with me, but I'd have no idea where we are, and everything like that. And it always comforted me knowing that, okay, if we ever got lost, keep heading east, you're going to hit the town of Gorham. Pretty much no matter which way you go, or no matter what happens, just head east, and you'll hit a road or something. So see, that's always the comforting thing, but a lot of people forget about that. And it's very easy to panic. And that's the biggest killer in the forest, in my opinion, is people who panic that they're lost.
I agree with you. Because I imagine just being in that scenario is that, like, if that were to happen to me and I would panic, and then that would probably be the end of it. Like, you would be thinking straight.
Well, it's very easy to freak out in the forest. It's very easy to freak out, because when you go into the forest, in my opinion, it's the closest you ever really get to nature, quite literally. And it's one of the reasons why I think some of these Bigfoot stories I take with a grain of salt. Because a lot of them, I bet you, they're just seeing a bear, or something like that, and they're freaking out. Their brain freaks the fuck out, and they run away. It's why I think like I'll bet you if I really looked at it, 90% of the Bigfoot stories I hear I don't believe.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You know, it's very rarely do I sit down and be like, I believe that person is telling the truth.
You know, with stories like this in general, like, I know, at least when I was younger, what always sold me, like, on something was, like, footage. You know, you know, your classic cryptid grainy footage on the camera and stuff.
Well, I still believe in the Patterson-Gimlin footage, and I know I get made fun of that a lot, but I still believe it.
We've had that conversation before. And I think your take on it's really interesting, actually. I don't know how I personally feel on it. Like, I kind of lean towards it more so being still fake. But, like, at the same time, I actually totally get your rationale with it, and it makes a lot of sense.
To me, that is the definitive Bigfoot thing. Everyone knows the Patterson-Gimlin footage, just the image of it. But to me, it's just the pieces to me add up. That suit looked too good. That's a really good fucking suit.
Yeah.
If that turns out to be a hoax, if that really is a hoax, that's the greatest hoax ever pulled off, I think. Besides Santa Claus. Oh. Santa Claus is a cryptid, believe it or not.
Bro,
but yeah, you know, stuff like that's interesting and stuff like that. And another thing that you'll discover in the woods is that the tiniest sound will freak you out.
Yeah, I can just imagine that, because I remember one of my uncles, he used to live like upstate, and he had a big backyard that went into even bigger forest than my grandparents stood. And like I remember we went there, we didn't even go too far in, but like one, it didn't help that his son was like doing small art projects like with strings. So we walk in, I see that, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh yeah.
But then like I would hear like noises, and like some of them were legitimately creepy. Like not anything like too abnormal, but like I know he told me that there were reports of like mountain lions in that forest.
Rarely.
Yeah. I never heard one.
Where was that? Was that in northern New York?
It was up
yeah, they might have mountain lions. Well, I'm convinced that New Hampshire has mountain lions, but officially we don't.
Yeah.
We have bobcats and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like all I know is if I heard something like that, I would.
Oh, I'd shit my fucking pants.
Tail in between legs and just run all the way back.
Dude,
never leave.
If when I go hunting early in the morning and it's still dark out, dude, if I hear a squirrel, I freak out.
Yeah. Even also at that house too. Like unfortunately, like he passed away years ago, and they don't live in that house anymore. But I remember that's when I was really starting to get into like filmmaking stuff, and I remember because I was staying over the night. And I was asleep because all the main beds were taken, so I was sleeping in the living room. But the living room had a big window that led all the way out to that forest.
Yay.
And man, did my mind play tricks with me.
Oh
that
yeah,
night.
when I was a kid, Jesus Christ,
hurt.
It'll always be after I watch a Bigfoot documentary or something, and I just
specifically
freak
for
out.
me, it was I don't even think it was just the same region. Like the stories of the Goat Man. That's what I was thinking about a lot.
That is such a niche cryptid.
Yeah.
Goat Man. I haven't heard about Goat Man in a long time.
Goat Man was known to be very violent one.
Oh, that was another one that they think was that Texas Bigfoot thing. Goat Man, unidentified, was that. I remember hearing that.
With that, it gave me like good like if I ever were to go full unhinged and make my own like cryptid horror movie. Of just like shots of that thing like in the darkness, like coming from the forest or something. Like my brain was at least, even though my brain was scaring me, my brain was able to give me some cool ideas in my head.
Oh yeah. And it all stemmed from me freaking myself out. And I'm to blame because I would be reading and watching this shit.
That is to me the crux of this conversation, is that I got into cryptids and stuff like this because it scared me.
Absolutely.
Because it scared me. And I just it's the same thing with horror movies. Horror movies, I used to hate horror movies. I didn't want to be scared. I didn't want to be scared at all. But then I just wanted to see more.
It's almost cathartic in many ways.
Yeah.
Because I was with zombies, zombies scared me more than anything else growing up, so I never watched the movies, and I wound up making 3 zombie movies because they scared me.
See, zombies were the one for me that like didn't actually
Oh,
affect
they
me that much.
scared me so bad.
I was from the start already kind of numb to it because I played a lot of zombie stuff growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of movies. Zombies were the one thing that didn't really scare me too much. Of course, there were movies that that were like scary, and I won't mention because my friend just commented. Zombies in general are a horrifying thing to think about. Like,
they are.
Zombie in general is a scary thing to think about. Like,
Impossible, as the zombie
biggest
movies have it, but yes.
General is me being used like in a mental state that I'm not aware of what I'm doing. That to me horrifies me.
Dude,
and that leads into
The Last of Us zombies. When people first get into it, what's creepy about that is that the person is still conscious, and but the fungus is controlling what they're doing. Yeah, that's awful. That is terrifying. But to me, one of the things that I think. Oh, did we just drop for a little bit? No, we didn't. We're still here. One of the things that always freaked me out, or what I think it used to freak me out, and now I think it's become a cliche, is that this idea that they're not the monsters we are.
I'm 50-50 on that because I feel like it's been done really well.
Day of the Dead, the original 1985 Day of the Dead is my favorite example of this working. And I thought the first few seasons of The Walking Dead did it all right.
I actually, oddly enough, even though I did get into big zombie mode when zombie hysteria was real a few years back, I watched Walking Dead. To be totally honest, I didn't. I missed the boat on Walking Dead.
Yeah, it was a thing. It still is, apparently.
It still is, apparently, but I don't have anything against, like, the first season.
The first season was great. I
don't have anything.
But yeah, it's that stuff is kind of genuinely terrifying. Specifically, the original Night of the Living Dead scared me when I was a kid, so I refused to watch it for the longest time. Still think some of the atmosphere in that movie is terrifying. But the thing that turned me off the zombies 100% was George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, the opening of that movie, to the point that I did a podcast about it not too long ago, about how wonderful that opening is on a horror standpoint. It scared me to the point that I refused to watch it. My mother used to yell at me.
Was that like the initial outbreak? Was that it for that one? Am I thinking of a different?
You might be thinking of the remake.
I think I'm thinking
because the original film actually inspired FM 132.9. The original film opens with like a TV station just going crazy. You don't see a single zombie, but they keep.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, because the original one opens with a TV station. They're like the dead are walking, and there's this guy trying to rationally explain what we need to do, and no one's listening to him because he sounds insane.
Yeah, that's just a scary scenario. Also, because I think you mentioned to me for FM that this was an inspiration to. I watched this in college.
Pontypool.
That was a cool
That's
movie.
a great movie.
And I really liked that movie. I think towards the end it lost me a little
I was going to say
bit.
the final act lost me.
They show the zombies, and I'm like,
nah, they shouldn't have showed the zombies.
Yeah, like that took it. They were zombies, right? Like,
just imagine if that was all just a prank. Just a
bro.
crazy prank.
That was basically War of the Worlds.
Well, War of the Worlds, yeah. War of the Worlds, they wanted to freak people out. The Orson Welles one. They wanted to freak people out, but they weren't expecting people to actually kill themselves over it.
They were just like, it's just a prank,
It's just a prank, bro. Plus, it's kind of weird, because I'm like, that is so clearly Orson Welles.
Ooh, I just noticed, Fred also just commented, the Flood from Halo is a good example of, like, scary zombies to me. Like, even though it's sci-fi, the concept of the Flood is horrifying.
Ah, the Flood. You see, Halo is a case of a game that I never played, but I've really gotten to the lore, reading about the lore.
Yeah. For me, Halo is... I really genuinely love Halo. I need to just take a weekend to just fully endorse myself with it again. But again, Halo to me stops at Reach.
Well, I can tell you, Dead Space is apparently the game that everyone says I would love.
Dude, Dead Space is fucking awesome. especially I love the sequel way more than like the first one's good. I think Dead Space 2 is fucking great. But I don't really like the third one that much. It isn't horrible.
So I've heard. I've heard that the weakest link is 3.
It isn't horrible, but like it kind of ruined what made Dead Space scary to me, at least. Like,
okay.
And like they also like 3 for some reason they went with the idea of like, we're all right. So you were first 2 games. You're on a space station. Where are you gonna go now? Snow.
Snow?
Why? Why? The exact polar opposite of dark.
Well, I don't know. I'm one of those guys that loves snow, particularly horror movies and stories that take place in the snow.
Yeah.
I love The Thing. I love The Thing from Another World. I love The Thing. The most recent thing that I read that was of this was The Terror.
Yeah.
Oh my god. The snow was more terrifying and the cold was more terrifying of a presence than the actual monster. And the author did that for a reason.
Yeah. With Dead Space 2, it's just like for me at least it really was just like, this is like too much of a contrast.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like it's just known for how dark it can be at times and like how that would really help to its horror, and to me that like was like the complete polar opposite. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad game by any means. It's well made for the most part. But it's nowhere near as strong as the first two.
Now, you like Five Nights at Freddy quite a bit.
I do like Five Nights at Freddy's.
I think you kind of like Five Nights at Freddy.
I kind of. Okay, yeah, I do. Don't tell anyone.
So I've only ever played the first game. Loved the first
yeah.
game because I genuinely freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah.
But you, because you like Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm guessing, do you play a lot of like horror games?
I mean, to me, it's just like it's just a genre to me. It's just, if a game clicks with me, a game clicks with me. Like, it's I will, for the most part, always give something a chance. I actually have been playing recently with friends. It's a multiplayer game. It's called GTFO.
Get the fuck out.
That's what it's called. But what it is, it's it's so fucking creepy. Like it's a multiplayer thing, and like it's kind of a little more like not like wacky, but like it's definitely like a lot more sci-fi than horror sometimes. But it's really the way a match starts up. It's you go yes, I do have a friend. You're 4 people, you're all lashed into these things, and you're launched all the way like to this underground cavern, and you just need to do these small missions. Like you need to like find this, find that, find like I've only just gotten into it. But the thing is, your enemies in that game are these they're basically like clickers from Last of Us.
Oh,
they're
fuck
these
clickers.
they do respond to light, but they more so respond to sound, and you have to kill them quick. And what they do is, like, when no one's in the area, you all need to crouch, you need to turn your flashlights off, and they glow. They glow, that's when you know one's there, and you all need to do as a group effort. You can get up close to them and personal. You need to just charge up your hammer and smack them all at once, because there are ones that will straight up alert a horde, and that will take you out right away. It's really fun, and like, as I was playing it, I'm like, there has to be some kind of crazy lore to this, because this is like, they don't really explain anything. It's just, you're prisoners and you're forced to do this, and it's like I think it's really interesting, and I hope they expand, because I don't think they've done too much expansion on lore with that at all, but like it's interesting.
SCP Containment Breach? Yeah, I played the fuck out of that.
I played it, and I also did like to read some of the SCPs, but the thing with SCP is that like I kind of fell more in love with the stupid ones rather than the actual scary ones.
Yeah.
Like that's a pinata that like when a child approaches it, it freezes the child, and then the pinata kills the child, and candy comes out of the child.
Oh, that sounds like it's fun.
Yeah,
I remember Antonio sent me one. Antonio sent me one because Antonio really likes the SCP stuff. Like he's really into that.
Yeah.
He specifically sent me one that was like of these pink flamingos. That on the surface it sounds stupid, but as it went along, it just got creepier and creepier and creepier. It kind of reminded me of Tales to Tell during the dark. What are those children books?
Oh, Scary Stories to Tell.
Yes. It kind of reminded me of something from that, which, let me tell you, those freaked me the fuck out when I was a kid.
Yeah, for me
That
too,
might
yeah.
have been what introduced me to horror. Actually, were those books? The artwork captivated me.
There was one artwork, and it's even though like it's kind of silly to look at now. There was one, I think it was in the second book, where it was just a guy running, and then above him was this gangly creature with a huge head, and like eyes popping out of its skull.
Yeah.
Like that one, and it was like almost like shooting like lightning at him or something. And like, and when you look at it now, it looks kind of silly. But like that one to me, it just struck me with all the detail that was put into that picture. Like the artist who did that did a magnificent job. And I haven't seen the movie that came out for it recently, but they did a great job recreating the like monsters that were in those, like making those illustrations into the monsters on screen. From what I saw, at least.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if I've heard it was okay. The movie, because it was a PG-13 horror movie, but that's not necessarily.
Well, it was meant for a younger audience,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I mean, the source materials for younger people, so.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why when I heard it was, I'm like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. I gotta tell you, one of the creepiest stories I've ever read from anything was, and it's such a simple premise. Kind of reminded me of the Telltale Heart, but not quite. Like, the Telltale Heart's a really simple premise that really resolves around getting into the psyche of your main character. That's what this was. And it's about a guy who is renting out an apartment in a house in Italy. And he discovers a tooth in the wall. That's the story.
There's a tooth in the wall.
There's a tooth in the wall. And I was like, this sounds so stupid, and it really was good. It was really good.
Was this SCP or was this still a scary story?
Oh, no, it was something else completely. It was just a short story that I read when I was in school. I remember reading that one. It was really creepy. To the point I was so engrossed by it that I became very jumpy after I read it. To me, that's the sign of a good story.
Were you because it was just mentioned in the chat, were you on the Slender Man high at all?
Yes.
Were you? Yeah. I was big into it. I like more so the conception of Slender Man rather than like the stuff that went to it. The fact that it was like a contest they did, I think it was 4chan or something, and like what they came up with was really really interesting.
Yes.
And,
yes.
like pictures really cool and really unnerving.
Yeah. Whoever came up with it was really great idea.
Yeah.
Really creepy idea. I can tell you what has freaked me out more recently, and that's Siren Head.
Siren Head?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. That sounds super familiar.
Fallout 4 has a mod for it now, where you can play it where Siren Head is a monster and the thing that you gotta watch out for. There's some mods for Fallout 4 that I've seen that are fucking terrifying. Like, I wouldn't play that.
Truthfully told, Fallout was a series I never really got into, mainly because I'm not a big Bethesda guy.
Oh, I hate Bethesda.
But like, I like Fallout's universe a lot,
Me too.
and I love how weird Fallout's universe gets.
Oh yeah.
Like to the point where like the fact that these nukes dropped made things like death claws. I'm like, this is awesome.
Your friend is gonna send you a picture of Siren Head. It's terrifying, and the sounds it makes is terrifying.
Oh yeah, I have seen this.
Yeah.
I have seen. You know what this reminds me of? Have you seen the videos of like they became a meme where it was unsettling images set to specific music? Have you seen those at all? I love those. My favorite one is the one it's set to the full version of the iCarly theme song.
Yeah.
I just rewatched it today. That's really funny that I got it.
There's Siren Head for everyone on YouTube who's watching. Kind of creepy. Actually, that is creepy. To the point that I would never want to encounter that in the woods at all. But, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. But that one has kind of creeped me out more. And again, I'm a really big audio guy. And a lot of that, or sound, I should say. Sound can succeed at scaring me far more than anything else.
Yeah.
The original The Haunting. The original one, made in the 60s. One of the scariest movies I've ever seen, just because you never see the ghosts. It's all sound. And it's creepy as fuck because of that.
Yeah, going along with sound too is that like I know I have watched things where it's like to me, good sound design is when I'm like watching a horror. Let's use horror movie for example. Watching a horror movie and I hear something that makes me stop the movie, take off the headphones, and look around for a brief second.
Yes.
I thought I heard it in my actual home.
There was a movie I was watching where someone knocked on a door, and I had to take my headphones out.
Oh, no.
It was a really good movie. It was a really good movie. It was I think
there's something about knocking in general where it's like it's stories that involve like it's like late at night and there's a knocking at the door or something. It's like that's that's simple, but that's effective.
And Antonio shared me. Antonio really likes this shit as well. And Antonio sent me. We were driving. I think we shot an episode of Fat Man Little Boy, and he was driving me back, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he shares with me this idea of they're called like 5-minute horror stories, and they're just these little paragraph things.
Those are really good.
And yeah, some of them really are. And one of them freaked me out to no end, to the point that I said, you know what, Antonio, we could make this into a film series. Totally could, based on these stories. The one that freaked me out the most was this little girl. She goes out, she hears her mother calling for her name. And so she starts going down, she starts, she gets up, she's like, all right, I'm coming, mother. Starts walking out to the basement. A hand grabs her, puts her into the closet, and it's the mother, and she says, I heard it too. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Oh no.
Yeah, that terrified me.
I remember that one.
And Antonio and I, like, after we got done reading it, we're like, oh no. And we're out here in the middle of the dark. Fuck you.
Yeah.
But that was a really good one. Alright, so we've been going on. This has actually been the longest live stream that we've had. So we've been going on for a while now, and I think it's about time that we start wrapping up. So, alright. So, Lucas, do you have anything to pimp out?
I will pimp it out again. So, for stuff I do online, I do a Let's Play channel with my good friend Steve. His channel is Shay64. And it's called Gameplay Buddies. We play video games and stuff. We're doing a great playthrough of Pokemon Let's Go right now. I highly recommend that one to start, at least as something to start off of and pick off of. And then for me personally, I have Pow Pop. It's currently in hiatus right now, but I am working how I want to approach that channel coming soon. So do keep an eye on that as well. And then I'll also be here on AM Productions every now and then with stuff we do. So.
We definitely see you a lot on Frugal Filming.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Frugal Filmmaking, we see you a lot, and you are always doing some weird shenanigans while I am being the stick in the mud.
I was actually watching one of them recently. I forget which one it was, but like I love how you specifically. I think it's like the first thing I say in it. Where it was like I was looking at the light stand. I mentioned Antonio was like, "Hey, Lucas, what are you doing?" And my gut response just, I'm wondering how fast I would have to run to like impale myself like Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, when I heard that, I died, and I was like, "Yeah, all right."
It's just like sometimes I just. If there's anything I could toot my own horn for myself is that I've become pretty good with on-the-spot humor.
You have. You're much better than I.
Like, it's like, and the thing is, like, it's a lot of the times it's not intentional. Like, there was an episode of Gameplay Buddies that I just put up recently, and I completely forgot this is how I open up the episode. Steve was just, like, talking about the game and stuff, and out of nowhere, I was like, hey, Steve, you ever see the fucking Cove, the movie where a bunch of dolphins are slaughtered on camera and jumps out of the water? I don't know what prompted it, I just started talking about it. It's so just out of nonchalant, I'm just like...
Oh, Jesus. But yeah, Frugal Filmmaking is what Lucas has seen in the most, though, Antonio, Adam, and Lucas the other, which he's a major contributing creative force on that.
I was also in a film called Noise Complaint. That was another one that we did.
That was a weird one.
I think it was a fun one.
It was.
I had to really. There was a lot of getting into that role I had to do. when I ate into that chip, that was something.
That was art.
No, all joking aside, I do genuinely like that one because it's funny as hell.
It is funny. It is funny. It's just so simple.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It's because I don't know if you've noticed, but I kind of like chaos in my stuff, and it's just the chaos off screen, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and to me that's where the comedy comes from. I love my chaos. Anyways, so yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Lucas. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and everything like that. Once again, Lucas, for no reason at all, has grown gigantic on my screen.
Have I really now? Hooray! I don't know if that was on camera or not.
Maybe. I don't know. I kind of missed it. I was too busy resizing your ass.
I just saw it. Damn it. I had a water bottle. I did the thing where you twist it and pop the cap.
Yeah. Martin, I have indeed listened to bedtime stories. I am subscribed to them actually onto the tubes of you. But anyways,
right.
Make sure it's Like Game Productions on Facebook and everything like that. You go on my channel. There's a link to all of the, our social media there. And so yeah, the next time we'll be doing an official live stream on YouTube will be the first Saturday of June, whatever that day is. I think it's the 6th. But oh my God, D-Day! Oh my God, it is D-Day! Oh! Oh, I'm celebrating. Fuck yeah, we're liberating Europe.
That's right. That's when our Oogie Loves live stream is going to be on Sunday. We're gonna discuss our favorite moments from the Oogie Loves.
All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be seeing you guys on the flip side. Sayonara, everyone.
Peace out.